Are we on? Who even knows? Welcome to the 2018 midterm election live stream. We are going to have results. We are going to hear from you, people in the audience. We are going to, what else are we going to do? I'm up for potentially calling into other people who are also doing live results shows. If, I don't know who's doing stuff or what, but I'm up for doing that. Maybe we could get on other people's shows if people, I don't know, super chat me the contact information for some of these other shows. Maybe we can check in with them. But we are going to be doing results and already a bunch of interesting stuff going on. We are going to get to, maybe that's what we'll do first. I mean, why not just check in? My plan is that we are going to dip in and out of coverage. So we've got the NBC News stream, which we can look at any time, and we should be able to listen to it.
Or less, and they're going to really enjoy it, and they're going to be glad they participated.
So we've got that going on. We have the PBS NewsHour, which I think actually they do. It's less sensationalized, and I think that it's a nice stream that they do. So we might look at that. Let's see if we have audio from them.
This huge amount of turnout. I think that the engagement.
I was actually going to also have the Fox News stream, but for some reason I was unable to get audio on it. I don't know why. It was a really weird thing, just not able to get the audio through on the stream. And we are going to have New York Times and all sorts of other results available. So a lot of stuff is going to be going on today, and I do look forward to hearing from people in the audience. The phone lines are not yet open, but when they open, the number will be 617-830-4750, just like yesterday. So why don't we just first take a look at what we know so far? Let's start with the House. All 435 seats in the House, of course, up for election as they are every 2 years. The constant campaigning that is a reality of the House of Representatives. And so far, Democrats have won 4 of those seats. Republicans have won 10. And this really doesn't tell us too much yet, because it is indeed so early. A lot of these in very red areas, things looking very good for Republicans in Indiana. I don't think that's going to be a surprise to anybody. Things looking mixed in Florida, not a surprise to a lot of people. Al Lawson already winning there in Florida's 5th district. Not very shocking. We will follow what's going on in the House. Let's go over to the Senate. Of course, the situation in the Senate is very different than in the House, insofar as only a third of the Senate seats are up for re-election, and it is not the set of 35 that are favorable to Democrats. So even given a so-called blue wave, and it's still early, and we'll see whether that actually happens, even given a blue wave, you have the numbers stacked in favor of Republicans. 42 Republican seats are not even up for election this cycle, whereas 23 Democrats are safe from potentially even losing an election. So this already systemically favors Republicans, which is why I believe that the Democrats are not going to take over the Senate, although many people disagree. Bernie Sanders, not surprisingly, handily winning already in Vermont. That race is over. In Indiana, this is an interesting race because it's assumed that the Republican Mike Braun is going to win. But if Joe Donnelly were able to pull it off, or even to do well, right? Like right now, he only has 42% of the vote with 12% of the vote in. If he were able to even do well in Indiana, in this Indiana Senate seat, that would already signal that it could be a good night for Democrats. Still too early to say right now. Virginia, Tim Kaine is, with 10% reporting, Tim Kaine is down 44 to 39, very, very early there. And then in Florida, this is actually one I am very interested in. And we're going to get to Andrew Gillum in Florida momentarily when we go over to governors. If Bill Nelson were able to take Florida from Rick Scott here, this could signal pretty big things for Democrats this evening. And I want to try to get down to, here we go. So I don't know how familiar with Florida you are, but these 3 counties down here in the lower right, Miami-Dade County, Broward County, and Palm Beach County. This is a high population, typically Democratic sort of stronghold. It obviously includes Miami, and you've got Fort Lauderdale in here, and other areas with populations, as we literally see them switch to blue, that typically vote for Democrats. So if Bill Nelson can stay close without that much of these three counties reporting, he will be in a good position. Now, we have initial results from Miami-Dade County, 60-40 in favor of Nelson. Only one precinct in Broward County, Rick Scott ahead there, still sort of meaningless. And just initial results from Palm Beach County, Bill Nelson up by almost a 2-to-1 margin there. So that's going to be very, very interesting to watch. How do I get back to the entire Senate? I guess I click up here. So Florida, we're going to be watching. And now, I mean, look, as we were speaking, now that we have 7% reporting in Florida, Bill Nelson has taken a slight lead there. So it's going to be a while until we know what happens there. And then we also have some initial numbers in Ohio, where incumbent Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown is up by a more than 2-to-1 margin against Republican challenger James Renacci. We'll be watching that one closely as well. Now, let's go over to governors. 7 Democrats and 7 Republicans who are currently governors are safe because they are not up for re-election. But otherwise, there are a lot of races here. I am very, very interested in Florida. And as we zoom into Florida and we see that Andrew Gillum currently is up by 2.5 percentage points over Ron DeSantis, I'm already excited because this would just be a major, major win. It would be a major win, number one, because Florida is a very high population state. It would be a major win, number two, because Florida is also a state which can be a signal state for what we might expect in other parts of the country. And same sort of logic applies. You've got Palm Beach County, Broward County, and Miami-Dade County in the southeast of the state. Those are typically big Democratic strongholds. Andrew Gillum way up, basically mirroring. If you actually look at the Palm Beach and the Miami-Dade numbers, Gillum's support basically mirrors Bill Nelson's support. And we still have just very, very little data from Broward County, which really, my understanding, based on looking at prior year elections, is that Broward County should go for the Democrats. And if it doesn't, it's probably not a good night for Democrats. So we're going to be following that very closely. And zooming back out to the entire country, we've got some early numbers in New Hampshire, where you have Molly Kelly challenging Chris Sununu, currently up, but only 2% reporting. I would be interested to see what happens there. Incumbent Republican Phil Scott up in Vermont. In Ohio, you have Richard Cordray up bigly over Mike DeWine, but these are initial results and they mean nothing. We can't really deduce anything. In South Carolina, we have under 1% reporting. In Georgia, now Georgia I'm very interested in, and this has been the center of, can I say it any other way than a voter suppression fiasco, where you have the guy who's running in the race, Brian Kemp, the Republican nominee, also managing the election because he's Secretary of State. And we've seen everything from so-called investigations into possible Democratic hacking of voter registration. We have deregistration, voter purges, as I like to call them, limiting of voting hours, early voting hours, limiting of polling places, all sorts of stuff. And if indeed this one went to Stacey Abrams, you have no idea how huge it would be. Now, unfortunately, with only 1% reporting, Stacey Abrams has under 30% of the vote, but it is still very, very early there. And we are going to be following that extraordinarily closely. Let's see what's on people's minds so far. Quinn Reed sent a $2 super chat saying, Gillum supporter in the chat, fellow Floridians. Yeah, I am excited about Andrew Gillum, not just because he recently actually visited the law firm of our friends at Levin Papantonio. And number one, everybody said he's just an awesome guy and a really, really nice guy. And it's just such an important race. If Democrats could take over such a large population state that is not a reliably blue state in Florida, that would be absolutely, absolutely huge. So I am very excited about that one, and I'm going to be watching it very, very closely. Let's see what's happening. Let's just see what's going on PBS NewsHour and
They
see what
see
they're
the
talking about.
prosperity. They see it as a beacon of hope, and we understand that. We are a country that's welcoming to immigrants. We bring in 1 million new immigrants a year, and he's saying, let's do it legally and let's fix our system. But we certainly don't want bad actors to get in because we don't have the border security.
All right, so completely standard right-wing talking points. I have no idea who this is, but they sound like standard right-wing talking points about immigration. See what's going on NBC News. By the way, is Megyn Kelly going to be appearing here? I know that she was scheduled to, and then she lost her show for reminiscing about when it was okay to dress up as blackface. I don't know.
Kind of a Stockholm syndrome there. So the party shrunk, so it's obviously in more lockstep with the president. But I will also say the Democrats who run who as they are, progressives like Beto, like
all right, well, nothing too exciting going on there. Let me see if I can mute this. Interestingly, so let's go back to our map because we have. If I go back, I believe it's to the Senate. Even though the official results right now in Virginia have Tim Kaine basically in a tie, the networks have already called it for Tim Kaine, and they're saying that's it. That's it for Virginia. And very, very quickly, you are starting to see the power of incumbency, and we are going to start getting. I think that by 8:30, we're actually going to have a pretty good sense of what the map looks like, and really what the kind of key races are going to be. Anai77 sends a $5 super chat saying, David, you so handsome. Oh, well, thank you so much, Anai. I appreciate that. And I hope my political analysis is sufficient as well, because otherwise that would be really, really embarrassing. Okay, maybe I will open up the phone lines just to hear from people a little bit and see what's going on, although I am not going to be taking calls endlessly because I know people don't like that. But let's take a little bit of a listen to what's going on with the audience. And there we go. Getting myself connected. 617-830-4750 is going to be
Have
the
your question ready and listen
number
for David to call out your area code.
Yes. Let me put myself on, and then we can start hearing from some folks and seeing what else is going on. Very, very exciting night. We are here. Okay, let's just see what's on people's minds. Why don't we go first to our caller from the 484 area code? Caller from 484, what's going on? Did you vote? Please tell me you did.
I did vote. Yes,
okay.
David, I voted.
Who's this? What's on your mind today?
So I'm in the 11th Congressional District of Pennsylvania. I was doing a little bit of research. It's Jess King here versus Lloyd Smucker. I'm sure you've been taking note of Jess King. So Smucker has taken like about $1 million thereabouts in bribes from the oil and gas industry. I mean, I listen to your show pretty frequently, so obviously I'm well informed. I'm a chemist by trade. So my number one issue is global warming. And I mean, you know, it's kind of fallen by the wayside with concerns about immigration and healthcare and guns. And obviously these are super impactful issues, but I mean, I don't think people really understand. You tell me, David, do you need to be in the know to be worried about this issue? Why has it fallen by the wayside?
You shouldn't need to be. The problem is that there has been a concerted effort from the right to make just science and facts, knowable facts, controversial and political. The sort of there has been an epistemic indifference to the truth, where now even truth is not a winning political platform. So yeah, I think this is a big problem, and we've been talking about how do you convince people who don't care about facts and who fundamentally don't value the telling of truth by our elected officials that they are being misled on the issue of climate change or on any other issue? I don't know the answer, but it's very, very ugly. It's not a good thing that's going on. And I appreciate the call, and I hope your election there goes your way. Let's see who's calling us from the 701 area code. Caller from 701, go ahead.
Hi, David.
Yes.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
This is Johnny from Fargo, North Dakota. I just got back from the polling place in my district, you know, Heidi Heitkamp's up. And it's considered to be the key race in the Senate as far as which party ends up taking it. A lot of cautious optimism. I mean, for my part, I saw a lot of younger people at the polling place. I felt like that gave me some hope, but I'm still not quite sure what to expect by the time the results come in.
Yes, well, I don't know either. I'm trying to pull those up right now, even though the New York Times results page must be getting slammed because it's now not loading. That is an interesting race, and I tend to agree with you. We might have to go back to that. Doesn't seem to be loading right now. I tend to agree with you that that is going to be a race that's interesting for a couple different reasons. One, it'll be interesting to see, Heitkamp had to be very careful in terms of her commentary on the Brett Kavanaugh situation because there was risk there either way. So that will be interesting to see how that shakes out. And it also may be sort of a flagship or indicator race for sure. But yeah, I mean, I don't know that we can deduce that much from exactly what went on at your polling place. Like I went to a polling place here in Boston that quite frankly was dead. But that doesn't necessarily tell us too much. So we'll be watching together, it sounds like.
Yeah, and the big thing too with North Dakota and why it's such a toss-up is everything outside the Red River Valley, which is basically the east quarter of the state, is very much Trump country.
Yes,
absolutely. But we just got hit with snowstorms, so who knows if that'll affect things.
All right, good. Well, glad we got an
in the
update
rural
on the
area.
weather there. That always snow can impact results. That's for sure. We know that.
Well,
Thanks
in
so
the
much
rural
for the call.
areas,
Really appreciate it. Let's take one more call, and then we're going to get into some other results that are coming in. 513 area code. Caller from the 513 area code. Go ahead.
Hey, David. It's James from Cincinnati. I'm a big fan of your show.
Thanks, James.
I was just curious with this talk about voter suppression in Georgia. I'm in Ohio, but are you aware of any published data that gets put out every year about showing how many actual machines are in each location? Because I would love to see a breakdown of, to see how many machines are actually at the traditionally black neighborhood voting places versus the white ones. Because my white area had plenty of machines, but then I hear stories about Georgia places, predominantly urban areas. They have, I could be wrong, but I hear they have one machine. And I was wondering, are you aware of any kind of data that gets published?
Well, the thing is, I'm not aware of that data specifically, but the important thing with data like that anyway is that you need to know really voting machines per capita, right? Because if you have twice as many voting machines, but 3 times as many people, the fact that there's more voting machines doesn't really account for the fact that the people are kind of being underserved. That would be interesting to look at, but I don't have that data. I've not seen that data.
Okay, thanks.
All right, no problem. Great to hear from you. Let's see who's calling from 612. Caller from 612. I know that area code, and I don't remember where it is. Where is 612?
Hi, I'm in Minnesota.
Oh, Minnesota. Okay, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. So I was just calling. I was gonna say I've recently been fed up with the Democrats constantly and blatantly running away from their base. I think.
Like
and
on
so
what
I was
issues?
wondering if you, mostly in the 2016 election, I think a lot of people were firmly behind Bernie Sanders, and they did a lot of things to kind of get out of that.
Okay, but so are you saying that on the issues the Democratic Party has abandoned the base, or you're saying that you're just talking about they're toying with the primary in 2016?
Sorry, both of them.
Okay.
They were super hesitant with Medicare for all, and it seems like legalizing marijuana and all of these issues. I couldn't name them right now for you, but it seems that they just pull away towards a more establishment type of view on it.
Okay.
I'm just wondering if them abandoning the base on certain issues like this maybe makes it easier for progressives to kind of vote them out and vote in somebody.
It's possible, but if they also control the bully pulpit and can keep those progressives from actually getting any traction, then the answer would be no, right? So yes, on the issues it should. And it's very, very loud in the background. I'm gonna let you go, and we'll finish talking about this off just without you on the phone because it's getting very loud there. Yeah, I mean, listen. On the one hand, you would think that as the population continues to move left, which the U.S. population has on just about every issue, abortion, polling on gun safety, polling on whether the government has some basic duty to provide some level of health care to everybody, regardless of ability to pay. The country has moved to the left. And yet our representation in many ways has not. And we can say that it's because of the how campaigns are funded and the inability to break that status quo. We can say that it's the power of incumbency. There's a lot of different ways to sort of approach it, but this is a real issue. And ultimately, I think that we are going to really have progressive ideas represented in the House and Senate to the degree that they exist in the general population. You're going to need to fix, I call it, campaign finance, and probably put in place some different kind of voting system. I just don't see any way around it whatsoever. I would love to be able to here we go. We've got the results back. So let's see how we're doing now. We have now, of the 435 House seats up for re-election, all of them, we have 9 Democrat wins and 10 Republican wins. 9 and 10. Democrats need plus 25 in order to take over control. And the data continues to come in there, and we will be following it. Let's take a look at the Senate. In the Senate, we are now starting to get data in other places. We have West Virginia data. Let me make sure this is visible, where Joe Manchin, with under 1% reporting, arguably the most conservative Democrat in the Senate, winning with a close to 2-1 margin, but it is extraordinarily early. Let's go back to Florida, which is an interesting one, where Bill Nelson now we're talking about numbers in Florida. Let's take a closer look here. So the upside in Florida is that with a fifth of the vote in, 22% reporting in Florida, Bill Nelson is up by about 103,500 votes, 21% reporting. Now, what we do need to look at is how much of these lower 3 counties are in. And this is, listen, with peace and love at 7:22 p.m. on Election Day 2016, based on the Florida data, I knew that Trump was going to win. We have different data from Florida right now. And if you ask me what I think, given that it's 7:52 p.m. Eastern time, and I see that Bill Nelson's ahead by over 100,000 votes, with only initial results from Miami-Dade, only one of 577 precincts reporting in Broward County, and only about, 2.5% of Palm Beach County precincts reporting, which are going to invariably go for Bill Nelson. This is good data for Bill Nelson in Florida, and this is generally good data for Democrats. Okay? If you disagree, let me know in a super chat, and I'll get to those super chats in a second. So this is good. That's good to see. Already talked about Bernie winning in Vermont. Indiana, the numbers are not looking good for Joe Donnelly. So this was opposite Florida as a sort of flagship indicator of where tonight was going to go. We had a sense that if Joe Donnelly could do really well in Indiana, that would be a good sign for Democrats. He's not doing well. We now have a fifth of the votes counted, and he is down by almost 20 points. Now, let's take a look. You have Indianapolis. Okay, so only 1% or 2% of Indianapolis is in. That will be useful to Joe Donnelly because that is presumably going to be a place that is more favorable to him. Fort Wayne is another place, and only initial results there. So that's all good. We have nothing in Evansville in Vanderburgh County. That could be a factor, but the numbers aren't great in Indiana right now. And just because we are getting better and better numbers for Bill Nelson in Florida, who now has increased the lead to 118,000 votes. I realize I'm covering that. 118,000 votes with 24% reporting. Let's go over to the governor's races and see how Florida is looking for Andrew Gillum, which is very exciting. Andrew Gillum now has built a lead of 90,000 votes with 20% reporting. And again, we have very little of the big blue 3, Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami-Dade so far. So that's a good thing. That is a very, very good thing. Let me do a couple super chats because I know they're coming in. And by the way, I do want to mention to everybody who's on our stream, I'm going to get to super chats in a second. Before I do that, I identified months ago that it was time to put everything behind the 2018 midterms. I've been refusing to talk about 2020, even though there's a clamoring for it. And by the way, I will have very interesting information for you about 2020 later this week or early next week. including an interview in person with one of the most progressive members of Congress coming up this week in person here in Boston. Very exciting stuff. Anyway, not to get sidetracked, I identified that everything needs to be about the 2018 midterms. I identified that we need to be supporting progressive media. So I created a coupon code that saves anybody that wants it 40% off of their memberships at davidpakman.com/membership. That coupon code is VoteSoon18. That coupon code is done at midnight tonight. Why? Because it wouldn't make sense after tonight. The voting will be over. So if you value the David Pakman Show, I'm not going to do this all night, but please use that coupon code VoteSoon18 on our website for membership. It'll save you 40%. I will thank you. And along those lines, I do want to say thanks to Thomas Kitts, who just signed up, and Nora Arendt, who just signed up, and Chris Levitt, all of whom, and Diane Glazner, who just signed up. I will be thanking people all night. And if you make a pledge on Patreon at patreon.com/David Pakman Show, I will also be thanking you all night. Let's get to some of the super chats now, including a $200 super chat, which came in, which I will get to in order, if I may. Okay, Ivan Escalante. Ivan Escalante says, what does Ivan Escalante say? Your thoughts on Beto. My thoughts are, I think he's great, and I think he's got an uphill battle, and will we know at 8 or 9 p.m. Eastern about early results there. We might know very soon. Jerem B says, what's your position on question 1 in Massachusetts? I opted not to vote on question 1 in Massachusetts. It's very interesting that you asked me that. It's a question here in Massachusetts, a ballot initiative related to putting limits on the number of patients that can be assigned to nurses in hospitals. And I found very equally compelling arguments on both sides. And on these, I really take these very seriously. And if I'm not sure that I'm voting the right way, I opt to leave it blank. So I voted yes on 2 in Massachusetts. I voted yes on 3 in Massachusetts, but I did not vote on question 1, and I don't know what the results are going to be. The Lone Chemist for 1999. In your opinion, what election tonight is the most important or indicative of the current political landscape of the country? Also, I have a video essay YouTube channel. Please shout me out. Keep up the superb commentary. I just don't think that there's one race. It's very easy to sort of point to some of these flagship races like we've been talking about. You know, we've been looking at Florida here for gubernatorial, and we've been looking at it for Senate. I think that there are races. So like, let's take Texas, for example. Texas is an important race if Ted Cruz loses, right? If Ted Cruz wins, it's not that important what happens in Texas, because that's what should happen. The incumbent Republican senator should win in Texas. So I think that there's no right answer. The question is, which ones are important if Republicans win, and which ones are important if Democrats win? And Texas is one that's important if Democrats win. Jenny Kiss says, por favor, dices algún en español. No, that's wrong. What you mean is, por favor, dice algo, decí algo en español. She just wants me to say something in Spanish, which I just did. Master T sends a $2 super chat. J Watt sends a $10 super chat. Huge fan from Oregon. You're the best, David. I listen to every clip on YouTube every day while I work. Thank you for your show, and shout out to Pat. Thank you. Weeznaz sends a $200 super chat, the high watermark for the evening. Weeznaz, thank you. Let's see. I wonder if I can even switch to, just so people can see what I'm looking at here. Yeah, here we go. So now you can actually see the super chats. So I'm on this one, but from Weeznaz. Weeznaz says, I'm a huge fan from Oregon. Love the show. You've mentioned many of my subreddits in the past: Speakeasy Dictionary, Nationalizing Banks, etc. In the future, can you comment on a subreddit post you talk about so we don't miss your reactions if we miss a particular segment? Weeznaz, I love you for the donation. I have no idea what you're talking about. I mentioned your subreddits. I think you mean I've mentioned your Reddit posts. I've mentioned your Reddit posts in the past. Fair enough. Can I comment on posts I talk about so you don't miss me talking about them? Yeah, I will make an effort to do that. Graham Carpenter for $5. Hey, David, you're one of the best progressive voices in alternative media. Loved your takedown of Jesse Lee Peterson. I have a good story for you. I was walking downtown Boston today. I had just gone to the post office. I was on the phone with our payroll company. I was doing all sorts of stuff. And all of a sudden I hear someone go, Pac-Man. And as I was walking, and I turn around, and it's a guy who looks at me and he says, Jesse Lee owned you. And I couldn't tell if the guy was joking or if he was telling the truth. And he thought that Jesse Lee Peterson owned me. I don't know which one it was, but it was scary. But fortunately, he didn't beat me up. Paul says for $5, David, do you think recreational marijuana will happen in North Dakota? Early numbers look promising. We also need the House to turn blue, and we can stop Trump. I have no idea about recreational marijuana in North Dakota. I haven't followed that one. I hope it does happen. I think it should. I think that's the right vote. Terry James for $5. Similar question as before, but should Democrats try to turn Florida blue? Absolutely. Absolutely. Florida is already a state that sometimes goes blue, right? So why wouldn't Democrats say, let's push that to be reliably blue? Let's get a Democratic governor. Let's get a Democratic senator in. That would all be fantastic. Of course, Florida should be a top priority. Brian Connor for $2. David is the real great white hope. Amazing. I'm a Hispanic Jew immigrant from Argentina when it's convenient to play that. Otherwise, I guess I'm just a white guy. James Allen for $10. Love the show. Thanks for taking my call earlier from the 513 area code. David is the real alpha male. LOL. People asking about the coupon code, by the way. Coupon code is Vote Soon 18. Okay? Vote Soon 18 lets you get a David Pakman Show membership for $3.60 a month. You get all the stuff. You get 100% of the benefits, but you get a 40% discount. Okay? And on that note, I want to get to some other results that we have coming in. We will let these, it's very clear that these are being updated now with 8 p.m. results. So in the meantime, let me say thanks to Pete Mercado, who has signed up with the 40% discount. Let me say thanks to Elad Gariani, who is now a member. Henrietta Lee is a new member. Hi 2 is a new member. I already mentioned Nora. Okay, many new members. Vote Soon 18. You save 40%. You keep the discount for as long as you want. www.joinpacman.com. It expires at midnight because then it's no more Vote Soon 18. It's over. So let's see what we've got. We have early numbers from Massachusetts. I'm going to guess that Elizabeth Warren is doing well in Massachusetts. And, with 0% reporting, she has won. So I think that tells us about everything we need to know. And I apologize, I keep covering the results. Everything we need to know about Elizabeth Warren's race. Connecticut, Christopher Murphy, the incumbent Democrat, 0% reporting. He has won because clearly it is very, very lopsided. Delaware, Senator Carper has won with 0% reporting. It is not even close. Maryland, Ben Cardin has won re-election with 0% reporting. And as I mentioned before, in Virginia, Tim Kaine has also won. West Virginia, still under 1% reporting, but Joe Manchin is ahead. Let's just check in with Florida. Man, Florida is very, very interesting today, isn't it? With 40% reporting, Bill Nelson has increased his lead to 114,000 votes, I believe, if I'm doing the math somewhat correctly. 12 and 2. 114. We still have in Palm Beach County under 5% of precincts reporting. In Broward County, we have about a third of precincts reporting, and Bill Nelson is up 70 to 30. And in Miami-Dade County now with half reporting, 60-40 for Bill Nelson. So the key now is if the lead doesn't grow as these three counties come in, that could mean that as the Florida Panhandle comes in, so the Florida Panhandle is on Central Time. That's why we have no data here so far. And they close an hour later, and it's very conservative up there. In fact, Pensacola, which county is that? Escambia County is where Pensacola is. That's where our friends at Levin Papantonio Law Firm are. It's pretty conservative in all that area. So the point that I'm trying to make is even though the population is much higher in these key three counties, you got to get a big lead there before the rest closes, because otherwise you can be in trouble. And let's check in on Florida over on the governor's side. And absolutely no surprise, here in Massachusetts, Charlie Baker with 0% reporting has won. So that gets Republicans to 8 to 7 in terms of governors. Not a surprise at all. Very popular guy. And you know what? Here's something I've been thinking about. The fact that Republicans seem so easily able to become governors in the very blue state of Massachusetts, we could say is concerning. We can analyze a number of ways. The fact that when you have a moderate Republican governor who is forced to work with a very left legislature in Massachusetts, and for the most part does okay, right? I didn't vote for the guy, but he's doing okay. To me, it signals that Massachusetts voters are not simply ideologically voting for the Democrat merely because they are Democrats and there's a Democrat on the ballot. That actually, for me, is sort of it's not that I like seeing Republicans win, but it's kind of a positive thing in a sense for the sort of way that people in Massachusetts vote. Let's look in Florida. In Florida now we have, let's see if I can get this framed properly. In Florida, we now have a lead for Andrew Gillum of 183,000 votes, roughly, no, that's wrong. That's completely wrong. It's 83,000 votes. With 43% reporting, Andrew Gillum is up. And this is just a very, very exciting race. Same analysis applies where you've got to do well in these 3 counties because when the panhandle closes, that will give a boost to the Republican. So that's a big thing. That is a big thing. And we are going to continue to track that one. 8 to 7 in terms of governors, 30-42 for Democrats and Republicans in the Senate. We do have some good blue states closing, and that is helping. And over in the House, 19 to 16, Democrats over Republicans. Of course, every single seat is up here, and we will continue to track that. Let's see what they're saying about Massachusetts, by the way.
Massachusetts, though, you have a hole for Republicans. Charlie Baker, very popular governor in the state.
But it's certainly setting it up even more dramatically, is Democrats at some point have to get their arms around and define what Medicare for all means. For every Democrat, it means something different. And whoever the Democratic nominee is going to have to really clearly outline that. And for right now, I think that is fine that we don't have an answer, but it's going to be more challenging going forward.
We're going to come back to all of this as the night goes on.
All right. Somehow I seem
For
to
a
have
number
lost
of
the
really
live stream.
interesting House races because they've shaken up the map.
Yeah. All right. Well, so anyway, PBS is doing a fine job. Let's see what's going on over on NBC.
Can be told in Delaware, Tom Carper, also the incumbent, and he is headed back to the United States Senate.
And in the Maryland Senate race, Ben Cardin, the incumbent, will be returning. We project he wins. Also, Pennsylvania Senate, the two-way race, Bob Casey, Lou Barletta.
Yep.
The incumbent Democrat, Bob Casey, will go on to win tonight.
All right, and let's talk about Rhode Island, Sheldon, White House.
All right, so we'll get caught up on all of these as soon as the map gets updated. I'm not seeing that Republican or the Democratic win. Oh, no, they are updating it. Okay, so they're continuing to update. Sheldon White House is one there. Okay, so things, no big surprises so far. We're really just kind of watching races. Let's get to a couple of other super chats as they come in here. Let's see if I can put those up for us. Yes, I can. Let's take a look here. Mohammed Nazmi bin Zamali with a 5 British pound super chat says, my country, Malaysia, kicked out the ruling party of 61 years thanks to young voters. I followed that story. Hope the same dynamics apply tonight. I hope so, Mohammed. Let's see. Quinn Lovato for $4.99. What do you think about the younger generations starting to turn Republican, I think they mean, with the rise of people like Ben Shapiro? I have not actually seen any data that tells me that young people are turning Republican in any way that would be significant at this time. I just don't see that that's backed up by the facts. John Miller for $2 says, David Pakman show better than mainstream. Whoa, right clicks out of nowhere. Better than mainstream media. Thank you. I appreciate that. And Almagest for €5 says, hey, dude, watching from Ireland. Hope all goes well. Drank too much whiskey. Think I might get sick. I was actually thinking of getting myself a Fernet during an upcoming break if I have any available in the studio. we keep some bottles in the studio, and I'm going to see if but maybe I should wait to celebrate until we actually have something to celebrate, right? Because right now it's still very, very early. Appreciate the super chats. Keep them coming. In the House, Democrats and Republicans both gaining a couple of seats, 22 for Democrats, 18 for Republicans. Of course, you need 218 for control, and we are going to continue following that as this district, North Carolina's 1st district, goes to the incumbent Butterfield. I don't know Butterfield. I don't know if Butterfield is congressman or congresswoman. Let's see if we zoom in on that one. G.K. Butterfield. I don't know who that is. Let's look at the full results. Still not clear who Butterfield is. Butterfield. Where is that here? Not seeing it, but we are starting to get other interesting data. Let's take a look just for kicks at the Massachusetts ballot questions, if we can, because I am curious how those went and how based on how I voted. Let's close out some of this stuff here. Ballot questions in Massachusetts. Charlie Baker, as I mentioned, has won. Oh, we have no data yet. Okay. So yeah, these polls just closed minutes ago in Massachusetts, so we don't yet have any data there. 22-18 in the House, 30-42 in the Senate, and I would guess we still have 7-8 for governors. And we are going to be following all of those for the evening. A couple of other, do I want to get to a couple of other super chats here? Yes, I do. Who was it? So Terry James says, do you think the country will go in a leftward shift when millennials replace baby boomers as a major voting bloc? In general, when an older voting group dies out and is replaced by a younger voting group, that does move the country to the left. It's not because individuals become more conservative as they get older. It's because each subsequently younger generation tends to be to the left of the previous one. Waiting to Fade asks, which website are you looking at? Yeah, so this is the New York Times live election results, and they're pretty good. I like them. So that's what I've been looking at. And Marco Aguada asks, debated an old dude in the gym sauna with your talking points. He was not happy. He's scared the Democrats are coming for his Social Security. And Marco Perez says, love you, David. Thoughts on Kevin DeLeon from California? Yeah, I'm a fan. Let's see if we can take a look at, so we got to go over to, let's find that. That's kind of an interesting race there. I don't know exactly where that is located. Let's see if I can just go into California, bigger picture. Oh no. Now the New York Times wants me to sign in. That's not good. We are going to have to, I'm going to have to open up an how embarrassing. I'm going to have to open up an incognito browser or something when we go to a break. That's the New York Times website. Big fan of Kevin DeLeon. And I don't even know what's happening here. We are having all of a sudden, nothing seems to be working right. But we have, oh boy, things have just not gotten so good in Florida. Let's take a look.
The endorsement of Donald Trump is anxiously waiting. As he exited today from the polls, he said,
already worked across the aisle with Rick Scott on hurricane recovery efforts. I'm sure that I can do it with President Trump if and when it comes to that once I'm governor, Steph.
All right, Ali Vitale in Naples, Florida. Ali, thank you. I know you have got a long night ahead. All right, I want to talk more about the president because this guy has been on a media blitz. He held over 30 rallies in the 2 months since Labor Day to motivate his base. It's his favorite thing to do. And exit polls
okay, so
just
that we're getting conflicting information about
say Trump was a factor in their vote for the House.
What is going on here?
Why are these
We're getting conflicting information about what's going on in Florida. We are almost simultaneously getting information saying it's going really well for Gillum to it's not going so well for Gillum. So we need to figure out what exactly is going on there. And the numbers, by the way, not very good for Phil Bredesen in Tennessee. Not good at all. Let's see what's happening there.
Registrar recorder here in Orange County, careful as we go up the stairs here, has said that this is the highest turnout he has ever seen in a midterm election. In his 15 years on the job, the line continues to stretch down here. There are 200,000 people that are expected to vote in person. Hundreds of thousands of absentee ballots are expected to be tabulated after this day. And look, there's an entire another line all the way down that way, you guys. Back to you.
All right, people are lined up to vote. Fascinating. Let's go to the phone. 617-830-4750. Let's go to a caller from 804 who's been holding for a half hour. Apologies for that. Caller from 804, what's going on?
Hey, am I on the line?
You're on the line right now.
Hey, my name's Bill. I'm from Virginia. I'm actually a libertarian, a huge fan of your show. I think you do a really good job.
Thank you.
I voted first time today well, I voted before, but first time voting Democrat. My district wasn't that interesting because Bobby Scott is running unelected or unopposed, and Tim Kaine was kind of a shoo-in for Virginia. But the district that I think is very interesting is the 7 race with Abigail Spanberger and David Brat.
Mm-hmm.
That's my hometown district, and that's gone to the GOP for about the last 50 years, and it's kind of a toss-up right now.
Yes. Well, it's too early to know exactly what's going to happen there, but I appreciate the call, and we'll be watching that one along with many, many others. Let's see. We've got, I believe, it was hard to hear his name last time he called. Is this Jinson from New Jersey?
Yes, Dave, it is.
All right. Did I get that right? Jinson?
I have a question. Yeah.
Oh, all right.
I'm surprised you remember me, but
well, we have caller ID. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah. Anywho, I have a question. So, should Democrats take back the House and maybe even the Senate, would Trump turn volatile and desperate and do something more crazy? Do you see a scenario like that happening where he, like a wounded animal backed into a corner? What if do you see a scenario where he'll be even more off the wall?
I do. And I think, at minimum, there will be allegations of voting irregularities in favor of Democrats. That's like a given. That's not even, we don't even have to talk about that. Then the real question is he going to amp up the sort of catalyzing of actual violence in the real world? That's kind of the question. But at minimum, he will question the results for sure.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to see your thoughts on that because I think we're going to win, like past predictions earlier. But I do see it. I am worried about a scenario where he starts turning to desperation and blames this, blames that, starts doing irrational behavior. Even more irrational behavior.
Yeah, well, cornered animals often become erratic, so I think your concern is completely and utterly reasonable for sure. Thanks for the call, Jensen. Appreciate it. Let's see who is there from the 786 area code. I know you've been holding a while. What's going on?
Hello?
Yeah,
Can you
that's
hear
you. We can hear you.
Hi, this is Sean. I'm calling from Miami.
All right, Sean, what's going on?
I'm a Venezuelan American dual citizen.
Okay.
I moved here 3 years ago. So I've voted both there and here.
Yep.
Today was the first time I voted in person. And I voted it was kind of in a suburb part of Miami.
Okay.
It was 4:30, so kind of late. But the main difference that I saw is that there was, not that many people there.
Yeah.
So I wondered if that's normal.
I don't think we can really judge anything.
Because,
I don't think we can judge anything from how busy any one precinct is at any one time of day.
Yeah.
I just don't think it tells us anything.
It's just not what I expected because voting over there, at least the last times I did, it was a 2-3 hour ordeal.
Yeah.
With lines around the block. And I'm sure that's because, it's a very inefficiently run country. But I did expect to see more, I barely waited.
Yeah, no, I was, there was one person in front of me when I went to vote, and there were two people in front of me to check out and put their ballots in the machines. And I was sort of surprised, but we can't read into it. We're just going to have to wait and see what the results are.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for the call. Very much
show.
appreciate it. Let's check in with one other person at the 352 area code. Then I've got to do new member thank yous and new patron thank yous and a whole bunch of stuff. But 352, go ahead.
Hey, is this me?
That's you.
Amazing. This is Quinn with from Orlando, Florida. Just saying hi. I was actually wanted to say something about what you said earlier about like people understanding like what actually is true and understanding data and how like they can interpret that into their like voting patterns, I guess.
Well, I mean, can you be a little more specific in terms of the how you want me to address that?
Well, basically, I was just wanting to. I live basically in a very Republican, very hardcore conservative family, and for me, I've noticed that a lot of people obviously vote with what they feel, and they take anecdote over data like 200% of the time. So it's really difficult to get people to persuade people who are like that. Do you have any tips on that by chance?
Here's the real problem. Once people are at voting age, if they still don't have any sense of how to do critical thinking and how to analyze the basis of their beliefs and sort of basic concepts like anecdotal evidence versus actual representative data, you're already kind of losing, because now you've got to explain all this stuff to them and make it part of their, because the important thing is, if you need to have as a foundation a process for critically examining assertions that are made out in the world and how you come to conclusions and your own beliefs. And if you first come up with opinions about stuff and then someone tries to teach you the methods for evaluating those opinions, it's happening backwards, if that makes sense. So it's an overwhelming uphill battle.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate you taking my call.
Thank you. Appreciate you calling in. Let me take just one more call, because there is one other person who's been waiting a half hour on the 570 area code. What's going on? 570, that's you.
Hey, my question is, how important is it, at times to just set aside politics and get out there? Like so you had an earlier caller about global warming. How important is it just to go out there and plant a tree?
Actually, we did a story. We're doing a story this week on the bonus show about like 6 things that you can just start doing right away. And planting trees, I mean, if you have a place to plant a tree, that's great. But things like making sure you're not throwing away any food, making sure you're thinking about your heat and air conditioning usage. There are things we can just do. And of course, it kind of feels like nothing's going to happen if it's only you doing it. And I totally understand that. But I completely agree with you that we should be political activists at the same time that we are actually living the values we espouse. Because if everybody did that, then the need for activism would go down somewhat, because we'd have so many people just doing the stuff, if that makes sense.
And how exactly then do you weigh when it's more important to take these small actions and then when it's more important to, like, say, make a comment in the Federal Registrar or something?
I don't think
like
it's
that?
one or the other. I mean, we all live lives in the world. So while you're doing that, you should be living your values and doing the stuff. If your values are that you want to help with reforestation and tree planting, then you do that, and you also do political activism. I just don't think it's one or the other. Like, I'm regularly doing the activism I do on the show, but I'm still making conscious decisions in my life about purchasing decisions, heating, throwing food away, all that sort of stuff. I think we just do it all at the same time.
All right. And
Okay.
if let's say I have like a limited amount of time, though, how do I exactly?
Of course, but what I'm saying is the following. You may or may not have time for activism, but almost everyone has decisions that they can make every day about whether they are going to drive or ride their bike, or whether they're going to think carefully about whether they should really get 8 or 4 bananas because you're going to throw out 4 of them because you never eat 8 bananas in a week or whatever, right? So that's just like, everybody does that stuff. And then maybe you have time for activism or you don't. But I don't think making good decisions day to day takes away your ability to be an activist. Either you've got time for that or you don't, but you still got to make decisions every day.
I will take that to heart. Thank you, David.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate the call. Well, I'm leaving the phone lines open. I'm just not going to take any more calls right this second because I've got a whole bunch of other stuff to catch up on. I need to say thanks to a bunch of people who have signed up at www.joinpacman.com with the coupon code that ends today. If you want to support progressive independent media, if you watched an ad before the stream started, thank you. We probably made a fifth of a penny off of that, and that adds up. I'm not saying that as a joke. I'm really not saying that as a joke. That adds up. But if you have the capacity to do a little more, you can use the coupon code VOTESOON18, which expires at midnight tonight. It's been around for months, expires tonight because the election's over. You can go to www.joinpacman.com. You get the bonus show, the commercial-free audio feed, the commercial-free video feed, the feeling that you're doing something really good. And I want to thank Stuart. Is it Stuart Schmidt, I believe it is? Your name came through weirdly on membership. Dana Corbin has signed up for membership. Adam Perkins is a new member. Anna Bati, or Beatty, is a new member. Joshua Stahl is a new member. Connor Lydon is a new member. And Pete Mercado, I think, was the last one from the last batch that I mentioned. Thank you. And you don't have to do this membership thing. If you want to go to patreon.com and just make a quick pledge of as little as $1 a month to support the work that we do, you can do that as well. That's also very, very much appreciated. And I would even argue it's encouraged. Appreciated and encouraged. And you will also get a thank you from me. That's for sure. I can assure you that. No doubt whatsoever. Let's see what's going on with results. And then we are going to dip into coverage from PBS for a few minutes. And then we've got more super chats. I want to hear from people. By the way, I mentioned this earlier and I'm still up for doing it. I don't know exactly how I would do it, but on Skype, I can call any phone number and we can all hear it. So if you know how I might be able to call into some other shows that are streaming, progressive shows, maybe even our friends, like is Sam live right now? Is Sam Cedar live and does he have a call-in number? Maybe I could call in on Sam's show. Is Kyle Kolinsky streaming? If he is and he's taking calls in some way, I don't know if he's doing that, let me know via Super Chat how I could call into his show, because that could be an interesting thing. See what other people are doing. In the House, 27 to 28, Democrats have secured 27 seats and Republicans have secured 28 seats, and it is still very, very early. Over in the Senate, 31 to 42. 31 to 42, I already mentioned some of these races. Tim Kaine in Virginia and Elizabeth Warren in Massachusetts and Christopher Murphy and Sheldon Whitehouse in Connecticut and Rhode Island, respectively. Sherrod Brown in Ohio. They've won their races already. We have a couple of races that have now turned against us. One of those is in Florida. Florida now with 70% reporting. And as you can see here, boom, the panhandle has come in and it is red as far as the eye can see. Rick Scott has taken over the lead there and now leads by 11,000 votes. Now, it still remains that these three counties have not yet given us that much of their results, and they are very, very high population. We still have a third of Miami-Dade County to go. We have about half of Broward County still to go, and we have more than half of Palm Beach County still to go. So we've got to watch that, but it didn't go well in the last 10 minutes. That's unfortunate. Early numbers in Texas. We have, with 1% reporting, challenger Beto O'Rourke ahead of Ted Cruz. It just doesn't mean anything right now. Travis County, though, Austin, which I assume will go blue, no reporting so far. Dallas, 1 precinct, 2-1 in favor of Beto O'Rourke. Extraordinarily early. We cannot deduce anything from these early results so far. And we are starting to see these colors. What's Mississippi? Oh, Mississippi special election. I see. I was wondering, there was another Mississippi in the ocean, which is odd. Very, very odd. We're starting to see some color sort of filled in there. And then over on the gubernatorial side, we have also seen Andrew Gillum's lead evaporate in Florida. Very, very unfortunate. But again, we just had the panhandle come in, and we are still slowly getting results in from these big 3 counties. But as of right now, Ron DeSantis has taken a lead over Andrew Gillum by just under 40,000 votes. And nobody likes to see that other than the obvious people that want to see exactly that. Okay. I think, what was that noise? I think that was us getting, did we just get disconnected from, I got disconnected from my own phone system, interestingly enough. But people can keep calling in and we'll get reconnected and take some more calls briefly. Thanks to Corvus, who is a new $5 a month patron. Thank you very, very much. Let's dip into the PBS NewsHour coverage briefly, and then we will come back with more results in just 5 minutes. Let's take a listen to this and see what exactly is going on here.
Are some of our most vulnerable. And I think we're still some votes left to be counted in South Florida. Carlos Cabela has been close all the time. I think we're going to see some others. But right now, we feel good about where we are. We just got to keep fighting. And again, we were fighting a lot of perception going in, and I think this is a really good night so far. We've got a long way to go, but so far, and especially right here in Georgia, we feel good.
Congressman, how much difference in all this has President Trump made, do you think, in his campaigning for Republicans?
I think President Trump is done well. I think what he's forgotten many times, especially inside the Beltway, is for those who just like the president, they just believe that he can do nothing right. But when he goes into districts, even districts that are close, there are 15, 20, 30% of the Republican base that is very much behind this president, even in districts that are not, that maybe went for Hillary Clinton, and that base needs to turn out. He turns that base out. But he also makes the stark contrast, especially here in Georgia and many places in the governor's races and the Senate races and even some of the House races, is that this is the choice on the future. Do you want a future that looks like the Obama administration, or do you want a future that looks like the last 24 months, roughly, that has been prosperous and moving forward on the economy? And even a lot of the exit polls are saying the economy is doing very well. I think that's been the missed part in these debates going up to this election.
Well, we're certainly seeing some evidence at this point this evening that President Trump's campaigning has made a difference. Congressman Doug Collins, who is the vice chair of the National Republican Congressional Committee, joining us from Athens, Georgia. Congressman, thank you very much.
Thanks much. Have a good night.
And now we want to turn to our colleagues Amna Nawaz and Lisa Desjardins. They've been looking at some of these races we've been talking about, digging into the data, what they mean for the bigger picture. Amna.
Hey, Judy, that's right. Well, to the congressman's point, and as we've heard over the course of the night, over the course of the last several weeks, President Trump has loomed large in several of these contests. We want to take a closer look to see how that could affect some key races on the ground. If we bring up that Senate map, Lisa, walk us through what we are looking at here and what you're looking now. It's about 8:30 on the East Coast.
Yeah.
What matters right now?
Okay, so there are 35 states that voted for U.S. Senator today, and those are all the states that you see marked in gray, blue, red. And of course, the ones that are being defended by Democrats, those are in blue. These are not just any Democratic states. These are the ones that are vulnerable. These are the competitive states in blue and red. And what's notable, especially see all these blue states, Florida down there, these, with the exception of New Jersey, all of these are states that President Obama won. And that is why Democrats have been so worried about the Senate and why it's been so difficult for them to expect to take over the Senate from Republicans this year, because of all of the Trump wins in 2016 in these states that have Democratic senators.
So 3 of those states polls have closed in, right, that you're looking very, very closely at. Let's tick through these very quickly, and you can give us a sense of what we're looking at here. Indiana, where the incumbent Democrat Joe Donnelly is being challenged here. What are we seeing so far?
Right. Democrats really like this race for a couple of reasons. Joe Donnelly is well known. He's a hardworking campaigner. And also, there's a libertarian candidate in this race. I know you hosted a debate here. She had a strong presence in that debate. They were hoping she could be a helpful force for Joe Donnelly, who actually advertised for her at one point. But what we see in these early results is that Mike Braun, the Republican, is way ahead. And I want to look at these 3 states in the context of what Amy brought up earlier. States where the president won by double digits or single digits. This is a state where President Trump won by 19 points.
Very, very good. Exciting that that's what Donald Trump did. Let's take a look at some more election results because the map is increasingly getting filled in. We have super chats. We have all sorts of stuff going on. 8 to 9. 8 to 9 when it comes to governors. Let's get an update on the House, which according to the New York Times is 28 to 33. 28 to 33 in the House in favor of Republicans. And in the Senate, 31 to 42. Nothing new there so far. Okay, so I got some super chats from people giving me different shows that we could call and check in with. Let me first just go through some of these super chats and see what's on people's minds. Where did we leave off? Theophobe asks, if Dems win the House of Representatives, Republican Senate, what can Democrats do to Trump? Investigations, prevent more abortive tax reform, as they like to call it, or tax plans. There's actually, and I'm going to talk about that actually with a sitting progressive congressman later this week. It's a really important question. Bill Overson asks, curious on your thoughts on why most of the country is stuck with waiting in lines to go to a polling place. Here in Washington state, it's all mail-in ballots. Yeah, we're so behind. I mean, it's just embarrassing. And part of it is that the election systems, part of maintaining the status quo with election systems is what allows them to be manipulated and used to suppress the vote. So that's part of it, unfortunately. Connor Lydon sends $1 with no comment or question. Thank you. Karutsu sends 20 Mexican pesos. Slow down, David. You always rush too much calls. Okay, that's fair. I feel like at this point I've developed a little bit of a sense of when the audience starts to glaze over. So I may be wrong. And if I am, I will spend more time on each call. I Fart Magic sends a $2 super chat. Peace and love. Ingrid P, $2. Klezo Vinyl 22 says, call Kyle or the Young Turks. Jeremy says, I'm surrounded by conservatives and inundated with smug lapdogs like Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder, Dave Rubin. Thanks for making me feel less depressed with your thoughtful commentary. My pleasure. JEDLRC says, oh, what Sam's phone number is. Let's try to call Sam Cedar then. Let's see if we can get on. 646 257 3920. 646-257-3920. Let's see what happens. Let's see. Oh, right. So +1, I have to tell Skype. Let's see what happens here.
Thank you for calling into the Majority Report. Sam will be with you shortly.
That plays a role in places like Florida. Like, could we actually be winning the legislatures by not winning the governorships? Meaning, if we just didn't put the money into the governorships when they're that tight. I mean, there's no way of predicting
I'm going to
this,
text Sam and tell him I'm on
Republicans
hold.
just have so much more money that it's affecting down ballot.
So,
and that's where they win, is the legislatures.
As you're basically saying, lay low in certain areas and be, I mean.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. Josh, what's your sense of that?
Well, I also think that sometimes, Mickey, if you're just talking about money, I think it's not necessarily a zero-sum game, right?
What's going on over on Sam's show?
A candidate like Andrew Gillum actually, makes the playing field bigger, right? It's not just sort of a set pot of national money that gets distributed. It's not just a certain amount of grassroots fundraising that gets solicited by email lists, right? A candidate.
I don't know if
Gillum,
this will work. I don't know if he's even listening to his or looking at his phone.
And can actually energize folks, can bring in money that obviously would never have come into that race to begin with. So I think when when it comes to money, I don't think that's necessarily a zero sum. I do think that sometimes it's difficult when people get sort of electrified by some of these statewide races, that it's definitely hard.
I'm going to bail on that just because it's like we can't really do anything else. I can't monitor it while we're doing stuff. So I'm going to bail on that. I forgot he has the same phone system I have, and we were going to sit on hold and listen to that. Okay. So maybe we'll try a different one if we get other ones. The Badgera says 4 independent media, and Phobos Moon for 420 Canadian says good luck, Canada. Good luck, Canada. Thank you. Appreciate that very, very much. Let me say a few other thank yous to people who have been signing up and supporting the show. David Tillery, not Killery, not Hitlery. David Tillery is now a $5 a month patron. Thank you, David. I appreciate that so very much. I want to say thanks to Nina Trimbath, who has signed up at a 40% discount using the coupon code VOTESOON18, which expires tonight at midnight, at www.joinpacman.com. I want to say thanks to Michael Casiello, who has done the exact same thing and is now a member. And you can do the exact same thing and have, I will say nice things about you. These are all amazing people. These are all great. I would say Hannity's, these are great Americans, but I don't know if they're Americans. And quite frankly, it makes no difference to me because everybody's welcome as David Pakman Show members. www.joinpacman.com. Let's see if we can get some updated numbers. And then I will go back to the phones. 29-35. Democrats 29, Republicans 35. And as you can see, the map starts to fill in east to west as polls close in later and later time zones, or I guess earlier time zones where it is earlier. So far, Democrats have gained 2 seats and Republicans have lost 2 seats based on the results so far. Very important bit of information. In the Senate, we are still at 31-42. 31-42 over in the Senate. Florida numbers, let's get an update there. Now with 79% reporting, Rick Scott has a 64,000 vote lead. Still very much within reach, but the more that number goes up, the worse it is for Democrats. And it's starting to look worse and worse. And for governors, it is 8-10. We had 7-8 for a while. It is now 8-10. We are filling in the map in Rhode Island. We do have Gina Raimondo, the incumbent, who has secured re-election. In Massachusetts, as I mentioned, Charlie Baker has secured re-election. In Tennessee, Bill Lee is, despite only 3% reporting, ahead by so much that it has been called in his favor, the Republican. And in Arkansas, incumbent Republican governor Asa Hutchinson, even with under 1% reporting, has had that called for him. Sam said to call back in, so I'm actually going to try that. Let's see if we can call back in.
Thank you for calling into the Majority Report. Sam will be with you shortly.
Calling from
Let's see if we can get on with Sam now.
And
Oh,
I'm
that's
hanging
too
up
bad,
because that is another funny.
That is also
good advice.
problematic in terms of there. As far as I know, there is no congressional races in Transylvania. Not of interest of us tonight. Calling from a 217 area
Following
code.
my lead, a little tougher with these callers.
Well, that was low hanging fruit.
That was low hanging fruit.
Calling from a 217 area code.
We're holding for
this is
Sam
Cole
Cedar
in
here.
Illinois.
Cole, Pritzker is now your governor. Congrats.
Ish.
Yeah,
Sort of, I guess.
feels great, I guess. Anyway, I was
So for people who don't know what's going on, we're listening to Sam Cedar's live stream. He texted me and said to call in, and he's going to put me on, and we're going to be able to see what's going on over there.
Where the Jimmy Dore theory plays in tonight.
Which
yeah,
theory is that?
under
You're
his
a
theory,
fucking
we're supposed to
sellout.
get the House and the Senate back, right?
You're
Oh,
a
right. Well, I
you're
see
a
what
fucking
you're saying.
sellout.
I see what you're saying. Yes. I mean, I feel like that theory has gotten pretty threadbare. I think what the caller is referring to is that the idea was that if that Donald Trump would destroy the Republican Party, and by 2018, I think he said that the Democrats would take the Senate and the House, and
Then there'd be
they
a
would
filibuster.
impeachment, and they would be.
Can I present Jimmy Dore's ideas?
What's going on over there?
I think
Then there would be a mass outpouring in the streets.
I think
Then
it
Bernie
is.
Sanders be elected president in 2019 because they amend the Constitution.
That's actually very good.
So just let Trump win, and then there'll be a fucking revolution. But you motivated.
This is weird. Now we can't hear anything. It's very strange. Still on, though. How weird is this? We're still on hold with Sam, but all of a sudden we lost the show. Let's try it once more.
Thank you for calling into the Majority Report. Sam will be with you shortly.
We're motivated by fear.
Thanks,
we could
man.
have change.
Calling from
Samantha.
a 307 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Josh from Wyoming.
I'm so dumb. I told Sam to look for my cell phone number. I'm not calling from my cell phone. I'm calling from Skype. Let's see if now we can get on.
Right wing sweet.
Yeah. Well, it's
And,
Wyoming.
yeah. And then watching the results with the that with great stress.
Yeah. The stress is warranted, I think. And, but with that said, your stress, my stress will not do anything.
Wyoming's on the verge.
95% in. 95% in.
There,
Gillum is down by 1.2% with 95% in.
God, you're killing
Oh,
me here.
fuck you, you racist garbage.
I'm just telling you what I'm
Florida.
watching on the.
Not
What
you.
happens when all the retirees?
No, but who?
That is not looking
What
good, folks.
You could look at those two people on stage and say, I'm going to pick the small, defensive, oily guy with connections to every type of repugnant individual imaginable who looks like a pedophilia poster over the nice mayor from Tallahassee. Like this is how deep the racism has to be, huh?
Now,
'Cause that is a pure racism.
49% in.
That's a
Beto
pure
is up by
racism
52% to 48%. I mean,
That's the perfect
that'd be
example.
nice.
How could
I
someone
think
pick
This
this
is
guy?
another one. If you would go in a room and say, I would spend 6 years with Ted Cruz over Beto O'Rourke, then you should be institutionalized.
I mean, listen, we're talking about, Texas isn't sort of like the pure South. Neither is Florida, for that matter.
No.
But there is a slight difference between Beto O'Rourke and Andrew Gillum.
Yes.
I'll give
Yeah,
you.
well, that was kind of my point,
Yeah.
right? Wasn't that sort of my point?
Let's see if you can. Yeah, I mean, look.
Right.
One of the things that
One of them isn't a fucking criminal sellout.
last week I was on Hayes' program, and there was this notion of wanting to be very positive, and I said, and we've said this on this program, that it's
How
quite
long till we
possible
bail
that
out on this?
election will show us something very, very dark about our country. I mean, it's one thing about sort of
I think here's the plan. I'll wait like one more call, and then we'll probably have to bail.
baggage, and there was a lot of other but-fors and, Comey and mistakes by the campaign and this and that. But, we're now at like, we're more or less at sort of, I want to say gut check time, but I basically want to say like, things are pretty obvious now. Right? Like there's to the extent that the American public can be, anything can be communicated to the American public, things are pretty clear, but we'll see.
Well, the Halquist race is a great example. Vermont is not the South.
Right.
And
right,
she's
right,
getting slaughtered right now.
Right. I mean, we have a long way to go.
Yep.
Josh, I appreciate the call. Hang in there. Maybe we'll all come skiing.
It's your best friend, Chris fucking sellout Hayes.
Hold on for 1 second.
I'm going to be doing this impression the rest of the night. It's the only way I'm going to get through
Could
this.
you do a robocall
Now,
for me?
Absolutely.
I endorse.
I got you.
I don't
I
endorse.
keep getting the
that.
wrong number.
Because she believes
David
in
Packman is on hold,
future-oriented.
but he keeps telling me the wrong number that he's calling from, and I
Oh,
can't
man.
find him.
No, Mickey has a future-oriented vision for New York City and the Democratic Party. She wants to work across aisles with
It is
corrupt
a.
consultants that represent the Bronx.
I'm
as well as
trying to
Queens.
find it now.
Let's see if Sam
He's
can
telling
find
me
us.
it's a weird-looking number from Skype. I literally have
Thanks,
38
David.
people on
That's
the call.
very helpful, David.
You need to.
It's Transylvania. That was
David,
him.
what I need you to do is call yourself. Tell me what the ID is.
That was David from Transylvania.
All right,
I like
vamp for a second. I'm going to get a pizza and a. Let's listen to Hayes.
Oh, man.
Oh, fuck Hayes.
All right. So I guess I got to call myself. Man, this is just a mess. Let me do it real quick, and then we can just move on, and then we'll know exactly what the number is, and then we're going to move on to other stuff. I think it'd be funny to get on Sam's show and see what they're doing, but it's like, how long can we deal with that? Okay, +1. Let me see exactly what number it comes through as. Restricted. Great. All right. We'll try to get back on after with Sam, but that is a real disappointment. Restricted is not going to be too useful. Okay, let's get some updated results here because there is a lot going on. We are seeing very different numbers in Texas than what Sam just mentioned. Let's start over with the House. 35 to 40 But the important number is actually how many seats Democrats have gained, because even though it's 36 to 40 now, what really matters is the net change. And right now, Democrats are +2, based on what the previous situation was. In the Senate, 31 to 42 still, and it is looking increasingly not good in Florida, unfortunately. We now have a Florida situation where Rick Scott has taken a lead of 70,000 votes. It's persisting at 70,000 despite 83% reporting. And then over in Governorsville, 8 to 10, and the numbers are looking increasingly poor in Florida as well, where we had really high hopes, 77% reporting. And I know people will point out, hold on, David, it's only 89,000 votes. But with 77% reporting, what that means is that the votes that are left have to go in favor of Gillum by a bigger and bigger majority to make up the gap the closer you get to 100%. So it's truly not good. It's really not a good situation there. And ultimately, what's going to matter are going to be the plus minuses. And again, seven Democratic governors not up for reelection, 7 Republican governors not up for reelection, and that is that. So I'm not hugely optimistic anywhere other than the House, where we do have Democrats as +2 for Democrats in the House. That's really where I've been saying that Democrats have the opportunity. Let's see what's going on with live coverage.
Cities like Albany and voters that Brian Kemp needs if he's going to win this race tonight.
All right, Bill Nygut joining us from Atlanta. Thank you very much, Bill. It's good to see you. So back with our experts here at the table. I have to, Chris Buskirk, I have to come to you on this question of whether the South is ready to, it was a big story when the South went from Democrat to Republican decades ago. And there are people who are saying,
all right, and let's see what's happening over on, Chuck Todd. Let's see what his analysis is of the situation.
With sort of the last 6% tipping the balance. I will say this about Donald Trump and the Republican Party. They're much better.
Why can I barely hear this channel?
People and organizing. They have an idea about what they want to sell. And
the level is just embarrassingly low over there. I don't know what is going on with them over there. Okay, so if there are any specific races that you want me to focus in and look at on the map, I am glad to do that. We are continuing to get the House map filled in more and more, 38 and 44. But still, the important number is in the upper left. Democrats have gained just 2 seats so far, and they need to gain 25 in order to take over control. 218, half plus 1. 1 more than half, I guess. It's an odd number, so I don't know if that's the right way to sort of say what the math is. But 218 is what is necessary to take over control in the House of Representatives, and still a long, long way to go. Let's do a couple of super chats, why don't we? Because I am missing a lot of action that is happening here. Irving Rocha sent a $1 super chat. Thank you. Davide Ventrone sent a $2.50 Canadian super chat saying the children of the left will rise. Yeah, Jesse Lee Peterson talks about the children of the lie. And I guess we are the children of the left. I don't know. Joey Tech Talks sent a $5 super chat. I'm almost homeless, but I figured I'd send you something and support the show. Joey, if these are your last $5, I don't need them. And if there were a way to, can I even refund that? I can't. There's no way to refund that. I don't need people's last dollar. Please. I believe that supporting independent media is extraordinarily important. But the reason I do it is not just for the people that can pay. It's so that it's available to everybody regardless of ability to pay, which is why when I see Andrew Rohn becoming a $2 a month patron, when I see Miguel Martinez signing up at joinpacman.com with the coupon code VoteSoon18, when I see all of these great people saying, you know what, I can afford it. I can afford $1 a month on Patreon. I can afford $3 a month for a discounted membership. That subsidizes everybody getting the show without paying anything, which is the whole idea. We want to make this available to as many people as possible. So thanks to everybody who's been contributing, and we're going to keep thanking those folks. Ryan Couture is asking, David, what is the call-in number? The call-in number is in the video description, and it's 617-830-4750. Anai77 for $3 says, do I think Stacey Abrams should contest her loss? Oh, man. Let's look at some of that information. So we're looking at governor, and we are looking at Georgia. Let's see what the numbers are right now. Has that been called, by the way? 16% reporting, and Brian Kemp is up by almost a 2-to-1 margin. You know, 2-to-1. That was nowhere close to that. Let's see if we can pull up Real Clear Politics and see where the polling was on that race. Election 2018 and governor polls. And we are looking for Georgia. The recent poll is from yesterday. Actually, the most recent poll did have Kemp plus 12. So I don't know. I mean, the issue is right now he's plus 26. You know, if he ends up plus 26 and the polls had him plus 12, that is very, very odd. But it wouldn't have flipped the race. And there has been so much nonsense in that race that it's almost certain that votes were suppressed, the Democratic votes were suppressed. The question is, would Stacey Abrams have had won without that voter suppression? And I don't know the answer to that. So I think it's it's 8:56 on election night, and it hasn't even been called by the New York Times, although it's very quickly going in that direction. I don't know if networks have called it. I don't know the answer to whether that should be contested yet. Brian Coldy. It is Brian Coldy. It's my friend, Brian Coldy. Great show. Keep up the good work, Dave. I'm kind of related to Brian Coldy now. It's a very long story, but I can assure you that growing up, if you had said to Brian Coldy and I, you guys will one day be related in some way by marriage, I would have said, you're crazy. How am I going to end up related to Brian Coldy? But somehow I kind of am. I'm common law related to Brian Coldy, although I don't think we have that in Massachusetts. Clezo Vinyl 22, I know Kansas is red, but District 3 is a big deal to me. Well, let's take a look at that. Let's look at the House, and let's see what's going on in Kansas. And wow, I didn't realize Kansas had so few districts. District 3 is, where is Kansas District 3? Can't even find it on this map. 1, 4, 2. There it is. Kansas District 3. Let's see what's going on. So we have, oh, right. I forgot that I'm timed out on these. Let's see if I can just look at the data this way. Kansas District 3. Under 1% reporting, incumbent Republican Kevin Yoder is up basically 2-to-1 over Sharice David. So it's very early. We'll keep an eye on it. We'll see what ultimately happens there. Costume Co. with a $20 Canadian super chat. Thank you. Second biggest super chat of the evening. Love the show, David, from Canada. Thank you. Love Canada. Sam V, $10. Love your show. Raised right of conservative, homeschooled. Realizing throughout my 20s how much propaganda we believed. Hoping Christians wake up. Let his truth shine in. God commands us to love. I'm not religious, but if I imagine what would God's approach be, wouldn't it be that we should love and that truth matters and some of this other stuff that Sam V says? I think the answer is yes, for sure. Okay, let's go back to, so I don't think we necessarily need to go back to Real Clear Politics, although we can. 39-49, but most importantly, just +2 for Democrats so far. Need to gain more than that to take over control. In the Senate, 32-42. 32-42. And still waiting for results in a number of key places. You know, when we were just listening into Sam Cedars' show, he was talking about 50% reporting in Texas. We're seeing 2% and Beto up. I think he said roughly 50% and Beto down. Maybe the New York Times is just a little slow on the uptake in terms of updating here. We are getting data from Tennessee, and it is looking really terribly, terribly bad for Phil Bredesen. We are getting data from Michigan, and 3% reporting, and Debbie Stabenow is up slightly, only 3% reporting. We'll see what ultimately happens there. We had a caller from North Dakota earlier who was interested in what was going on there. Heidi Heitkamp with only 2% reporting, down, just obliterated according to this 2%. Very, very early. And if we look, yeah, I mean, Bismarck, Fargo, and Grand Forks, we have no data. We basically have 2 counties. That's it. So it's very, very early there. Don't think we can deduce too much from it. And Claire McCaskill, with under 1% reporting, has taken a lead in Missouri. She needs to hold that. I mean, if Democrats want any chance of taking over the Senate, she needs to hold that seat for sure. And then over on the gubernatorial side, I'm almost scared to look at how much worse it's getting in Florida for Andrew Gillum. But it is, where are we right now? Ron DeSantis is up by still just an 80,000 vote lead, but with 80% reporting, 79% reporting. And with every percentage point additional that reports, that makes the necessary margin to take it back even bigger. So that could be extraordinarily problematic if that doesn't go for Democrats. And how is the Senate going, by the way, in Florida? Also not very good. Bill Nelson is now down by not that much, 51-7, 58,000 votes with 85%. It's starting to get, so I don't know what the math is offhand, but if you're down by 0.8% with 85% reporting, that means you need to win what's left by, say, 2.5%. If you remain down equally with 90% reporting, now you need to get a 5-point advantage in so you can see how the gap you need to make up grows every time you get more and more reports. Let's see what other super chats we've got going on here. Vince for $5, keep up the good work, man. The world needs you. Thank you. Stephen Greenbank, $5 Canadian. Best of luck from Saskatchewan, Canada. Chelsea Fagan tying the second place high water mark. We have a $200 super chat so far during this live stream. That's the high water mark, and we've got 220s so far. Actually, 320s now. Chelsea says, keep up the wonderful work, David. You should show Ben Jealous in Maryland some love. He's up right now, early going, but still. Yeah, we'll look at that shortly. Paul Knopf says, I respect you the most. Also, get on the Joe Rogan Experience. I'm ready to go on the Joe Rogan Experience anytime. Anytime, I'm ready to go. Nikki Ray, who is also a member, $20. Hey, David, voted to keep my part of Pennsylvania blue today. Originally from Alaska, though, and there's a chance they gain a Democrat for governor there this time around. He was in the Senate for a while. Anyway, thanks for an awesome show. Thank you. Really, really appreciate that. Very, very much appreciate that. And a few other thank yous I want to do. Daniel Bodine is a new patron for $1 a month. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Paula Bragg is a new member at www.joinpacman.com. Thank you. Every single new member and $1 a month that we raise at patreon.com/David Pakman Show allows us to do more of the stuff that we do. That includes the long form pieces. That includes the daily show. That includes improving the production value of the show, which, by the way, I must say, I think the show is very, very close to sounding better than ever. And this is, over the last 5 years, we've made so many improvements to the visuals of the show, which only benefits people who watch. If you listen to the podcast or listen to the radio show, you don't really care what the show looks like. You don't care if I've completely plagiarized Sam Cedar's set because you're just listening. And this time, one of the main priorities was we want to improve the sound drastically. And we've had some issues, but we've made a major effort in that direction. And it's all because of the support we get from people. So the 40% off coupon code for membership expires at midnight tonight. That coupon code is VoteSoon18. Up until midnight tonight, Eastern, you can get, or is it, I never remember, do they expire at midnight Eastern or midnight Pacific? In any case, you've got a few hours. You can get a membership for 40% off. You get all the bonus content, all the commercial-free content, all that stuff. And you can keep that discounted rate as long as you want. You want to keep it for 5 years? Absolutely fantastic. But you've got to use that code by midnight Eastern or Pacific. Vote soon 18 at www.joinpacman.com. And I will thank every single one of you that signs up, including Leland Michaels, who has just signed up at www.joinpacman.com. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Okay, I had a couple of other. Why don't we go back to the phones briefly? And I'm going to try to get reconnected to my own phone system here. Let's see. Here we go.
Thank you for calling into the David Pacman Show. Please do not use speakerphone. Have your question ready and listen for David to call out your area code.
617-830-4750. Just going to put myself on the line, and then we can go to, let's start with Sean from Denver. Sean from Denver, go ahead.
Hi, how's it going?
Good, Sean. What's going on?
I honestly, wow, thanks, man. I honestly just got to say, man, this has been crazy. This election cycle, I just got to say, like, the Democrats have been failing so hard, and it's been driving me nuts. Like, watching these votes, I was calling this. This is what I was predicting, because at the end of the day, they don't stand for anything and they don't fight for anything. The only thing they do is they get the crap kicked out of them by Republicans and cry to the voters like, help put us in power. And it does nothing. Like was it Claire McCaskill put an AJAP pipe into the FCC, who repealed net neutrality. That's Claire McCaskill. She's about to lose her ascendancy. And what we have is a Democratic Party who doesn't stand for anything, doesn't fight for anything. And what's really happening is they are destroying their entire base because no one's willing to back them, because all people think and relate to when we talk about Democrats is this weak-minded, this weak politic bullcrap where they're not willing to stand up and fight. Like Kavanaugh. Like, I'll just say one thing and go back to you, but like Kavanaugh, Chuck Grassley was willing to put a potential attempted rapist on the Supreme Court without a thorough investigation. If you had Democratic senators, one after the other, coming out on CNN and MSNBC saying that at the end of the day, that Chuck Grassley, say his name, Chuck Grassley doesn't care about putting a potential attempted rapist on the Supreme Court. If they did that day after day, do you think Chuck Grassley would have changed? Maybe had an investigation, maybe allowed the FBI to look at this stuff? You want to talk about the Family Values Party? You were talking about a person who maybe potentially tried to rape somebody? Same thing with Mitch McConnell. They didn't fight on any of that. They just came out and said, well, I disagree. I think that the FBI investigation was substantial. It wasn't, because it was a facade. And we don't have people willing to fight for this. And it's just like, me as a person who thinks that the left needs to have a backbone to fight Republicans and fight evil, it's just been an insane nightmare.
Sean,
yeah, I'm sorry.
You are shot out of a cannon, and I can't disagree with basically anything you said. And I am ready to announce that I am abandoning the Democratic Party right now. Oh, wait a second. I've never been a Democrat, so I guess I'm not really doing that. Sean, you're so shot out of a cannon. Stay on with me. Let's take the next call together. Okay. I'm going to let you field this next call. Let's take a listen. We're going to add to the conversation our caller from the 774 area code. You're on with Sean, who I warn you is shot out of a cannon tonight. Who's this from 774?
Hey, is that me?
That's you, yeah.
Yeah, I'm calling from New Bedford. My name's Phil.
What's going on, Phil?
This is a Massachusetts-specific question.
Okay.
Do you think that, obviously strategically, having Mass as like a safe state for Democrats is generally a good thing, but do you find it personally frustrating that the race, like really your vote doesn't count at, like it doesn't seem like it counts as much? Like it seems like if you were in Texas voting for Beto, you know, there's more that you're like sort of doing there. Same thing with Florida with Gillum. Do you ever feel that
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is the case, and Sean, I want to get you in on this because I know that you're going to be extraordinarily fired up by this question. Obviously, we would all like to be in a state, in an election where we feel like our vote will have the most impact, and that's just not the case. In Massachusetts, there's a lot of internal stuff that our votes do make a difference on. In some places, it's just not close, and it doesn't. Sean, what do you think of this question?
Okay, thanks, man. It's education. And this is what I was saying when 2016 happened. I was on Jimmy Dore's side because what I thought, and I mistakenly thought, was when Trump gets elected, the corporate media is going to be like, no, we have to talk about policies now. Like, this has to be policies. We need to inform the American public on what's going on. And then it became Stormy Daniels for 30 minutes on the hour, every hour on CNN day after day for like weeks straight. I was like, this is fucked. Like, because what's really going on is that we don't actually have a populace that's informed on issues because of the fact we're not talking about the issues. And so what my plan was after 2016 was we had a lot of energized people were like, what do we do? You organize around the issues. What we need to do is start educating people on the issues that are important, understand what the propaganda is, understand what the lack of reality, the lack of like truth that we have, not only from the media, but from the corporate Democrats and corporate Republicans, and work to educate the population. So like what we need to start doing is organizing around the issues, talking to people and saying,
Okay,
no,
I think we got it. Okay,
look,
Sean, good. I think that gives us a sense. I don't know if it relates at all to the question, but I love it. Sean, take the energy and now use it for the next 2 years, and let's do good things with that. Really appreciate the call. 774, I don't know if that really addressed your question, but it was very, very high energy.
I mean, I can't complain. I wish I could be that excited.
Yep, I agree with you. All right, 774, New Bedford. Love New Bedford. Thanks for the call. Really appreciate it. Let's see. Man, people are getting... This is the time when people start getting very, very agitated. Let's see what's going on. 647 has been holding 47 minutes. No one has ever held on our phones for 47 minutes. So let me go to 647 and see what's going on.
Hi, is this me?
Yes, you are barely audible. I'm going to crank you up as much as I can, but please do speak up.
Okay, so I'm actually calling from Canada.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, what I was like interested in, you did a video a couple of days ago about, I think it was voting machines and they're changing the votes and whatnot.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I'm 19 years old, right? I voted twice, and the 2 times I voted in Canada as a Canadian citizen, I voted on a paper ballot. So like, I don't understand why, like, the logistics of using a voting machine if it has a potential of being glitchy and, you know, it being old and whatnot.
You don't understand why anyone would even suggest using electronic machines rather than paper ballots, you're saying?
Yeah, because, I don't know, the times I voted, I've used a paper ballot, right? And the thing is, given that there are, like, instances of voting machines being glitchy,
right?
Why would you even consider doing that when, I guess, you're...
Well, there are some advantages to using voting machines over paper ballots. For example, if something needs to be changed on the ballot, you don't have to reprint all the ballots, for example. Ballots can't be physically lost, but you have a whole new set of vulnerabilities. So I think this is what the debate is about. There are people who are saying, based on the problems we have, we got to get off of the voting machines and go to paper ballots. And then there are some others who say, no, the paper ballots alone don't make sense. We need machines, but let's have a paper backup that it prints a sort of receipt for what selections you made. But this is like one of the fundamental issues around every single election. 50 states, every single one with a different voting system, different voting machines. It's a mess.
Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate the call and thank you for calling. We can just, your level's so low we can barely hear you, so I'm going to let you go, but I really do appreciate the call. Let's go next to our caller from 929, who has also been holding almost as long. 929, you're on.
Oh, that's me?
That's you.
All right. Hey, Pac-Man. This election is going to be crazy, man, honestly.
Yes.
Just back and forth. Definitely, tonight it's going to be crazy. I think the Democrats definitely need to work on a lot of things. We need to stop focusing on Trump and build up our ideas and our
agree.
What's the word? Our, everything like that, our values and stuff like that. Definitely fighting Trump is definitely important, but I'm not a Democrat myself, but I like to think from both sides of the parties.
Sure.
So I think that's definitely something they needed to do before this, but I still think that with all the things Trump is doing, especially with that whole citizenship that came out, they're definitely going to get a good amount of votes. So it's definitely going to be a strong back and forth.
So you said you're not. What are your? So you're not a Democrat, but what are your politics?
More of a moderate. I can see the good and bad, and a lot of parties. You know, I don't like putting a label on myself or
do you
other
agree
groups,
with
but I
Trump on some
definitely
issues?
understand how some people can.
Do you agree
Sorry?
with Trump on some issues?
Certain issues. Not completely the issue itself, the way he goes about it. His implementation of a lot of things is wrong, and the way he brings forth his ideas. But certain things, the basicness of certain ideas, definitely I can agree with. But Trump himself as a president, not too successful so far.
But so aside from the way Trump presents some ideas, are there actual things you agree with him on?
Like for example, the whole, Mexican with the whole illegal immigrant and all that, the thing that, got him all the attention from the beginning. Definitely illegal immigration is a problem, but the way he went about that. Illegal immigration is a problem, but I think we should be focusing more on reform. He didn't speak anything about reform. It was all about railing against these people.
Okay, but hold on a second. If I may, I really
Yeah.
want to think this through for a second because this is interesting. So
Yeah, go ahead.
I said, is there an issue you agree with Trump on? And you said, well, I agree with Trump that immigration is a problem, but I disagree with his
Not
approach.
immigration.
Undocumented immigration. Sorry. You agree with Trump that undocumented immigration is a problem, but you don't agree with his approach to it. So
His
then
approach, definitely.
well, hold on. I'm trying to think this through, but you're sort of interrupting me. I want to really focus in on the question.
Sorry. Go ahead.
So it's not really an issue you agree with Trump on then, right? Because almost any elected official says undocumented immigration is a problem. Isn't it only their approach to solving it that matters? And you said Trump's approach is not an approach you agree with. So hold on a second. Hold on. Whoa. Let's not get crazy. Let me ask the question almost the same way, but slightly different. Is there any issue you can identify where Donald Trump's actual approach and position is one that you agree with and think he's done a good job on?
You said, can you repeat that? Sorry.
Can you identify an issue where what Donald Trump has actually done, in other words, his position and approach, not just saying X is a problem, because anybody can say X is a problem.
Definitely, probably, if I had to pick one example, the tariffs. The tariffs with nations of China and stuff. Yeah, definitely. The fact that he's even indulging in something like that, I do agree with.
Wait a second. So do you agree with the tariffs as a policy decision, or you just like that he's doing something?
He's making that a major point of contention.
But do you agree with the decision to put tariffs on China, which means they now put retaliatory tariffs on us? Soybean farmers are getting crushed. The stuff we buy will cost more, which will crush the middle class. Like, you agree with the policy of the tariffs?
But it's not that simple, Pac-Man, Mr. Pac-Man. It's a lot more complicated than that. You can't just break it down into a certain way.
Tell me.
Soybean farmers are going to be this more, and it's a very simplistic way of looking at it. If you were to speak to actual economists, tariffs are something that we've been doing since the beginning of America, basically. And
so appeal to tradition. Hold on a second. Hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's saying that we've been doing something for a long time is not an argument that it's a good idea.
No. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not using that as an argument. I'm saying that
so why'd
it's
you say
not such a simplistic way. Yes, people are going to be affected in both nations.
Okay.
But the end goal of it is to not make sure every American is going to have this great like non-consequential tariff. The end goal of it is to put pressure on another nation where we have the leverage above them at that certain time. Yes, they're going to hit back, of course. They're going to affect us back, but definitely
let's talk through it then. So Trump puts tariffs on China. China puts tariffs on us. What's the next thing? Like, what's the next thing that should happen now for the tariffs to succeed?
Well, I'm not an expert on the tariffs. The fact that he's even going against is what I agree with. Because you asked me to give one example. I'm not an expert on the tariffs itself.
I'm realizing that.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you for the call. Appreciate it. I hope I gave that enough time for us to suss out exactly what the story is. Let's go to our caller from 701. Caller from 701, go ahead.
Hello, David.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Hi, David. So my name's Paul. I'm from Fargo, North Dakota.
All right.
I was just curious what you think about Heidi Heitkamp possibly losing. I've got two questions.
Yep.
Do you think that she's too much of a dino if she loses, and it won't make much of a difference? And then one other question.
Okay, let me answer the first one
Should,
first. Let me answer the first one first.
Yep.
Heidi
Go ahead.
Heitkamp is not the most progressive senator, but she's certainly to the
Yep.
left of Joe Manchin. She doesn't vote with Trump
Absolutely.
nearly as frequently as Kevin Cramer would if he wins. And right now it's looking okay for him with 5% reporting. He's crushing her by a 2-to-1 ratio.
I
But
agree.
so I think that, yes, she's not a progressive in any kind of real sense. But for North Dakota, is it possible that she's
Yeah.
as left as they would elect right now? Maybe. And I think that if Kevin Cramer defeats her, that's not good for the left.
Right. And I had one last question.
Sure.
Should we have a liberal who is extremely tough, pumps his chest, who's honest, real, and actually gives factual information as a president? Do you think that we should shift towards tough guys being leaders in the Democratic Party with intellectual rigor? Could that be a realistic approach for the Democratic Party? What do you think of that?
So you're saying if in 2020 a tough guy Democrat in the style of Trump but on the left ends up winning, is that a model that the left should approach big picture?
But is actually honest and presents real facts and is not.
I
is not
still
lying
value
and
truth. I still value truth and accuracy as a viable and important element of political platforms. Unfortunately, a
As
huge
do
part
I.
of the country no longer does. So would I like to see that? Of course. Is it actually what is going to determine who wins in 2020? Doesn't seem like it. I mean,
Can't
I
agree with
hate that
more,
that's the
Steven.
reality, but doesn't seem like that really matters anymore.
I wish it would.
I know. Appreciate the call. Thank you so much. Let me take one more. There's one other person who's been holding more than a half hour, and then I've got so much else to catch up on. 804 area code. Go ahead.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. This is Robbie from
Hello.
Virginia. How y'all doing?
Good. Thank you.
Yeah. Virginia is mostly blue, but we have some Republicans, infiltrating us here and there.
Right.
I'm proud to say it has been pretty much called Tim Kaine keeps his seat.
Yep.
Woo-hoo! And for my district, which is District Number 7, everything is looking pretty darn good. She's got a pretty good lead for Spanberger. And I took my
So just
son
for
to
people
vote
who
for
know,
the first
just
time
to tell
today.
people, let me just tell people what's going on. So Dave Bratt is the incumbent Republican in Virginia's 7th district. We've got the results up on the screen for our audience. He is down with 94% reporting by 5. I'm seeing only 500 votes, which really isn't very much. It's 0.2%. Do you have more updated data than that?
No.
Okay.
But it's already pretty much been called for Democrats because we basically are
Pretty
Democratic.
much.
We're
Has
basically
it?
a blue state.
Okay.
And to the guy who, I'm an independent. All right. My son and I are both independents. Today was his first time voting. And we spent the last 3 days researching people and researching what the amendments were and everything. And last year in 2016, he was very apathetic about, voting. He wasn't into it. But with the thanks of Trump, I'm actually thankful to Trump. I cannot tolerate him. I kind of, have a great disdain for the man, but he is the disease that is going to cause the vaccine that is the Democratic blue wave. What I'm also thankful of is we are seeing a whole new breed of Democrats that are running. They are true progressive Democrats, not the corporate Democrats. That's why I didn't vote for Hillary, because she was more of a corporate and not really caring for us little people. So I'm praying for Florida. I'm praying for you people. But as far as he goes, Trumpleton, the great orange, gigantic Oompa Loompa that is sitting in the White House, I don't see how anybody could support him because he is just, oh my gosh, there is not a single solitary thing that he has done that any.
Oh boy. Okay, we just lost you. Thank you. I appreciate the call. That was a very strange noise. I think the point is she does not like Trump, and she's praying for people in a lot of different places, and that's a very, very good thing. We're getting a very strange sort of feedback noise on the call system. So let's leave it at those calls for now. I will keep the phone lines open. And then we can go back to the phones in a bit, and hopefully that strange noise will clear. Let me do a couple of super chats because there are a lot here that I have fallen behind on. Let's see what we can see here. Okay, Two-Sider Tech says, hey, David, love your show. Can you check how the race in Illinois 14 is going? Trump won by 3 points. Illinois 14. Let's take a look at that. Illinois 16, Illinois 2. Where is 14? Must be some easier way to do this. This is 13, 15, 12. Where is that 14th district? I can't find it. 11. Some of these are very, very... there it is, 14. Okay, in Illinois' 14th, it's so small I can barely even find it. Lauren Underwood is up 53-47 over the incumbent Republican. That is interesting. I don't know that Trump won it by 3 points, but if he did... 34% reporting, it's not nothing. Having a Democrat up by 6 points over the incumbent is a good thing, and maybe that would help. We still have Democrats having only gained 2 seats, which is not nearly going to cut it. So let's hope that one goes well. Knowledge Gizmo says, how can we be sure Republican votes were not thrown out? I mean, I don't know. Do you have evidence that they were? I don't know. How can we be sure any votes weren't thrown out? I'm not sure I understand that one. Matt Chavez, $4.99. David, is there any way you can get access to the White House press briefings and really challenge Sarah Huckabee Sanders? I think the answer is no. I mean, we don't have, if I go down to DC, I miss a show and I don't think there's a good chance of me getting in there. I can't imagine the White House would grant me credentials, but I would love to do that. That would be interesting. Jackson, $10. Hey, David, love your show. Would also love to see you on Joe Rogan. What are your thoughts on a parliamentary mixed member proportional system like New Zealand has? I have spoken out favorably about those proportional systems before. From a constitutional standpoint, is it even really worth discussing at length for the U.S. because it would be so difficult? But I am in favor of those systems and would be very interested in seeing the U.S. Explore it. The downside to it can be that you can end up with real, genuine extremists who might not win any seats in sort of first past the post elections, end up holding some seats, and that's not a great thing. Diamond Girl 08 sends a $2 super chat. Steve B for $10 says some good news from Florida. Former felons who have paid their debt to society have their voting rights restored. Good news. Offshore drilling shot down. Good news. And Greyhound racing banned. Also very good news. Pooper Scooper 54321 for $20. Fourth $20 contribution. And then we've got one for 200. Is anyone going to do 201 and put 200 out of the leaderboard? Just saying, it could be interesting. Pooper Scooper says, hey, David, I don't hear you talk about conspiracy theories much. Have you seen the documentary The Money Masters? If not, would you be willing to? I have it on a playlist on my channel. The Federal Reserve is privately owned. I generally find that most conspiracy theories aren't even worth debunking. It's better just not to give them any oxygen. I'm open to looking at anything you want me to look at. I am curious when I see the Money Masters and the Federal Reserve is privately owned. A lot of the stuff that would have that name, I'm not making this accusation without evidence. I will look at it first. A lot of the stuff that is floating around with that type of name is thinly veiled anti-Semitism. And I am curious to see exactly what that documentary is. Guitar Ninja 91 says, do you think the USA is an overall liberal or conservative country? It's looking scary right now. What happened to the blue wave? Well, the blue wave was never happening until it actually happens in people going out and voting. Enthusiasm, women's marches, all of that stuff. You got to vote. And we'll see where it shakes out. I think overall the United States population is increasingly left. And I think that corporate interests taking over control of the political system over the last 40 to 50 years have maintained a very right-wing set of elected officials and overarching infrastructure, unfortunately. And increasingly, we see a divergence between the political views of the people and the way that they are represented. And that's a really, really bad thing. It's actually an absolutely horrible thing. Let's take a look at what's happening over on PB. Let's listen in and see what's going on.
I was looking at this just a few minutes ago. The vote that's been counted so far in Texas, and it's so what's come in so far and has been counted is the areas that you would expect to be blue. It's entirely possible we'll see when it's all counted that we'll see crews actually draw even before they start on the election day vote. What's really interesting to me is the regional aspect of this, in some ways even more than the urban-rural divide. So you see...
All right, talking about Texas there. Let's see what's happening on NBC. Why did we lose audio on this one now? It's very strange what's going on. I'm not sure. I don't have the tab muted. I really don't get why we are seeing the audio go up and down on some of these. It's bizarre, quite frankly. Not sure I understand that. Okay, let's take a look at what we have going on, starting with the House. We now have 138 seats where we have results. Democrats 68, Republicans 70, and still Democrats have gained just 2 seats. Democrats need to gain 25 seats, meaning that they need to gain 23 more in order to reach 218 and take control of the U.S. House of Representatives. Over in the Senate, we are now at 34 to 45. And so far, unfortunately, although it does match my prediction from earlier today, Republicans have gained a seat in the Senate. Whereas that, by definition, because it's zero sum, means that Democrats have lost a seat in the Senate. I mean, this was my prediction, but we still have a lot more things to figure out. And let's take a look at a couple of key races. Let's look at Florida. Rick Scott now has a 22 plus 40, 62,000 vote lead with only 7% left to go. If you ask me right now, I think that Rick Scott wins in Florida and Bill Nelson does not. Let's take a look at Texas. In Texas, with 4% reporting, Beto O'Rourke leads Ted Cruz by 129,000 votes. It's still very early. We don't know much about that at all. We do see that in Beto O'Rourke's home of El Paso, with only one precinct reporting, he is up 3-1, which is fascinating, but very early. He's from there. So we've still got a ways to go there. And then going over to the gubernatorial side, we have 11 to 13, and Democrats have gained 1 seat in terms of governors, and that is Illinois, where J.B. Pritzker has defeated incumbent Republican Bruce Rauner. We have 33% reporting, and Pritzker, the Democratic challenger, winning by almost a 2-1 margin, which is stunning, but it likely is not going to hold. It's likely going to end up being a smaller margin than that. And unfortunately, in Florida, it's not looking great for Andrew Gillum, but he still could win. Let's see. So if I want to find good news here, I can find it. And the good news is that if you look at the entire panhandle, which is all red, it's all in other than Holmes County, and it's really just Holmes County. It's basically all in. So you're not going to get any more votes from that very red area. If we look down, first of all, at Orlando, Orlando's basically all in. You're not going to get much more from Orlando. But let's look at the big 3 counties in the southeast. You've got Palm Beach County. It's mostly in as well, so you're not going to get too much more there. Broward County is mostly in, and Miami-Dade is also mostly in. So listen, you've got about 300 precincts across these 3 counties that are yet to be counted. You've got to make up, what is that, 63 and 24. So it's close to 100,000, a little under 90,000 votes you've got to make up. And you have, what percentage of those liberal counties remaining? It's absolutely possible, but it is not looking particularly good. It's not looking particularly good there. So we're going to continue following those results. Let me look at a couple of other super chats. Joachim Nielsen sends a 17 Danish kroner. Love Denmark, was just in Denmark over the summer. 17 Danish kroner, which I think you have to divide. You divide by 10 or divide by 20 to get dollars. Anyway, hey, Pacman, do you like Sansa Stark from Game of Thrones? I've seen 15 minutes of one episode of Game of Thrones on a plane. It was like the third episode of the second season. I have no clue what you're talking about. I just don't know. Caesar Pacheco, $2. What is up with Proposition 10 in California? Not sure how to vote. Let's take a look at it. Why don't we? Let's take a look at California. I don't even know what that is. Proposition 10. Let's take a look at what is, oh, not this problem again. I don't know what that, all right, let me see if I can figure out another way to get that going. What is Proposition 10? Let me see if I can find it in another way. Proposition 10, House districts, and I've got governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, state stuff, ballot measures. Okay, Proposition 10 is, I've almost got it. Remove rent control limits. State restraints on local rent control laws would be loosened, and the Costa-Hawkins Rental Housing Act, which prevents cities from applying rent control laws to single-family houses and apartments built after 1995, would be repealed. So I tend to be in favor of keeping housing more affordable. Now, I don't vote in California. I don't know the specifics. Like question 1 here in Massachusetts, if I didn't know anything about it, it probably would be very obvious how to vote. But being in the state and really doing a lot of research into it, I ended up leaving it blank because I didn't feel strongly one way or the other about what the right thing to do was. So I tend to be in favor of those rent controls, but particularly in high cost of living states like California, but I don't know the specifics of that proposal. Shiv Saxena, Shiv, $2. What did you vote on one in Boston? I was asked that earlier, actually, and I just mentioned it as well. I left it blank. And I just did not. I really, if I'm not sure, I don't vote on particular things. And I filled everything else out other than some hyperlocal, or not hyperlocal. Actually, no, did I leave anything? I don't think I left anything else blank. No, I was going to leave Galvin blank. He's been the Democrat for so long. And then I said, no, I actually do like the guy and I'm going to vote for him. So I just left question 1 blank because I didn't feel that I had a strong feeling one way or the other. What did I want to do? Oh, I got to catch up on thank yous. We are doing 40% off memberships for the rest of the night. The coupon code is IVoted17. And I'm sorry, it's not I voted 17. It's vote soon 18. I voted 17 was last year. You save 40% if you sign up by midnight, and you can keep that price for as long as you want. Best way to support independent media. If you like what we do, if just like 3% of our YouTube subscribers all signed up, we would be laughing about things like YouTube demonetization and all of that other stuff. So you can use that coupon code on our website, www.joinpacman.com, vote soon 18, save 40%. Nicole Reglado has used the code, and I really appreciate that. Jennifer Newell has used the code, and I really appreciate that. And I don't know if I already thanked Leland Michaels. I think I did. If I didn't, Leland, thank you. And also want to say thanks to Nicolaus Y, who is a $5 a month new patron today. Any other new patrons that I missed here? I don't think so. I think we are basically caught up as far as that goes. One other super chat, actually a couple other super chats. Graham Barth, pay the damn Times for their website, Mr. Pacman. I should just get a subscription. Joachim Nielsen, $1 is 6.8 Danish kroner. Do you watch House of Cards? Thank you. I have watched every season of House of Cards other than the one that was just released on Netflix. I plan to watch it, although with the disappearance of Kevin Spacey, who I assume that they kill off and just kind of like, I assume the first episode will start with a funeral scene or something like that. I don't know. but I don't know that it'll be as good. And I get why Kevin Spacey is gone, but I have not seen that. I have not seen that latest season yet. Let's take a look at what we have going on over here in the House. Anything new? Nothing new at all in the House. Democrats still just up 2. Any big reporting going on? Let's see. No big breaking news on PBS. A lot of too early to calls. Rick Scott, Bill Nelson. We've been covering that one. That one's certainly too early to call.
Not a lot left, but there is still vote to be counted.
This is a big one here. Missouri
Oh,
Senate,
boy.
Claire McCaskill.
Claire
really trying to
McCaskill
hold
could be
on in a
done.
Really tough fight right now. Josh Hawley ahead, but too close to call.
Wow.
In the Arizona Senate race, also
This is a
too
big
close
one.
to call. Kirsten Sinema, Martha McSally. This is the Jeff Flake seat that's open. North Dakota Senate, too early. Heidi Heitkamp.
Early, but not looking good either.
Really, really tough fight to hang on. Too early to call in North Dakota.
And we've been watching the House numbers so closely. As we know, 23 was the number.
So NBC has Democrats at +5 right now. Let's see what's going on PBS.
Of a state. So there's a bit of history that's been made with this. It's a relief for Democrats. I think Democrats expected Mark Shields to hold on to the governor's seat in Colorado, but always a relief to see the check mark.
Absolutely, and Jared Polis is, as you said, the first openly gay governor to seek the office as a gay male and a father and a husband. And an enormously successful businessman and member of Congress.
Interesting. That is an interesting race. Let's see. Optimus 1337 says experts say Trump is already causing the next economic disaster. Do you think Republicans will blame Democrats when this happens, especially if they win the House? Absolutely. They don't even need to win the House, actually, because the Republicans, if we are at the beginning of an economic crash, Democrats will be blamed for obstructing Republicans from preventing the crash. So it's like, forget about it. They're going to blame Democrats no matter what. No question about it. Joe Rader asks, how about Minnesota? Let's see what we have going on in Minnesota. In Minnesota, we have a bunch of different congressional races, all but a couple right now around the Minneapolis area. I assume that is the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. We have Republicans ahead. We're going to dig into more detail on those as we have more data. Over in the Senate in Minnesota, we have Amy Klobuchar, who has already easily defeated Republican challenger Jim Newberger. Absolutely no sweat there. And is there a gubernatorial race in Minnesota? There is. And Tim Wise is that Wise or Waltz? I think it's Wise. Waltz? Okay. The screen is quite far from me, as you might notice. Up right now with 12% reporting over Jeff Johnson, but still a long way to go there. So Minnesota, we will keep an eye on. Some interesting races there for sure. Ready, Aim Fire. I get it. Says, hey, David, what are your thoughts on Governor Scott Walker, if you have any? Thanks for your input. I think he's disgusting. And I actually, let's take a look at that. What's going on in Wisconsin? Ooh, he could go down. This is an interesting one. Oh, Scott Walker right now, the incumbent Republican, disgusting guy, just very, very nasty, to quote Donald Trump. 25% reporting. He's down by just a little bit. It would be a massive accomplishment to be able to take down Scott Walker. It really would. And that is one we are going to keep an eye on. But no, Scott Walker, particularly on his labor relations policy and just being a horrible Republican, someone I want to see gone as soon as possible. Reed McMaster, how about Florida House seats like the 26th? Let's take a look at that if we can. Florida and the 26th. Let's see if I can zoom in maybe on Florida in a particular way so that we can see a little more. Where is the 26th? Second is way up there. So I'm guessing the numbers go up as we go down. 26. There it is. Okay, 26. 90%. Ooh, this is an interesting one. Carlos Curbelo, the incumbent Republican, is very close to losing to Debbie McCarcel Powell. Currently, she leads by about 3,400 votes with 90% reporting. That's great. And that would be one of the 25 that Democrats need to gain. So that's a really good thing. Let's get zoomed back out here so we can get better perspective. There we go. Very interesting one. That's a good one. And right now, still just +2 for Democrats in the House there. Florida House, the 26th. Yeah, interesting one. Thanks for calling that one to my attention. Okay, I want to take more calls. There's a bunch of stuff I want to do, and we have big results coming up at 10 p.m. So let me do this. Let me step away for a moment, refill my water, maybe grab a Fernet if we still have that bottle. And then we will dip into the PBS coverage, and I will get back. We're going to get back on the phones at 617-830-4750. This is the time. If you want a thank you right when I get back, make a Patreon pledge at patreon.com/David Pakman Show in the next couple of minutes. And when I come back, I will thank you, and it's going to be fantastic, and we're going to love it, and it's going to be great.
Final picture is going to look like, but you could have two opposite results.
Yeah, so to that point, I do want to start off by saying, like a year ago, talking about a competitive Senate competitive seats for Democrats was unheard of, because the political terrain for Democrats in the Senate election is one of the worst terrains in decades. Like, it was really difficult for Democrats to do well in Senate seats. And the House, I think Democrats will indeed take back the House. And I think also something that I had brought up earlier is the governorships. I think the governorships are going to be some historical wins for Democrats, which will be important in 2020 with redistricting. We made history in Colorado with the first openly gay man who has, talk about his children and his family.
And by the way, he's going to be a guest on the NewsHour tomorrow.
That's fantastic. That's a great plug. And we'll see. And Illinois, we saw we're seeing some wins across the country in those Midwestern, those upper Midwestern states. Many of them that Donald Trump won. And so I think that's a big win for Democrats there as well.
Chris Buskirk, if you're Donald Trump and you're sitting in the White House tonight, put yourself in his shoes, in his mind. What are you pleased about at this point, and what are you worried about?
I think I'm pleased that my party's going to pick up seats in the Senate. I think that's kind of sort of baked in the cake now. I've said for a few weeks now, probably Republicans will pick up 2 to 4. I'm sticking with that. I think that's probably where we wind up, and Democrats pick up in the House. So I'm not too happy about that, because that switches the chairmanships. Out goes Devin Nunes, in comes Adam Schiff. We wind up with Jerry Nadler chairing the Judiciary Committee, and this just makes life difficult for the Trump administration, because there is an agenda there.
What do you think his strategy will be with assuming the Democrats take control of the House? What is his approach going to be? Is he going to use
start the presidential campaign tomorrow? Yeah, I mean, I think that's it. He tried
running against the House. Is that
immediately? I mean, he tried to nationalize this election, and to some extent, I think was successful this year. And that the perpetual campaign just continues on.
So, any hope of cooperation between the two parties? Forget it. Is that problem?
I think if we agree on setting the date for the next election, we'd be doing pretty well.
Whoa, we're setting a high bar here.
Yeah.
Mother's Day.
November something of 2020. Mark.
Mother's Day resolution. I think we could agree on. Just not to pick a fight with Chris, but Devin Nunes has an agenda. I mean, don't suggest, please, that Adam Schiff has an agenda and that Devin Nunes doesn't. I mean, Devin Nunes is the first House Intelligence Committee chair in the history of that organization to turn it into a partisan. It's always been a nonpartisan group. The
Adam Schiff is not a nonpartisan by any means. And politics is partisan. That's okay.
But the House Intelligence Committee has been an island of nonpartisanship until this. And I did want to pick up on one thing that Michael Beschloss said, because I think it's important. There have been only 2 incumbent presidents who won seats in the House of Representatives in their first midterm. John Kennedy in 1962 and George W. Bush in 2002. Both of them were in the cusp of war as commanders-in-chief. There's the Cuban Missile Crisis, and in 2002, we're about to go to war on Iraq after 9/11. And I raise that because the questions I had and doubts I raised about Donald Trump's strategy, why he didn't run a good economy, he ran as commander-in-chief that we had a threat. The threat was the caravan, that we had to, and he elevated immigration concern about it to an issue. And, you know, it's going to be tough to argue if, in fact, the Republicans emerge in better shape tonight. I think they will lose the House. I think the Democrats will win the House, but it will be narrow. But I think that he changed the entire agenda of this election into a national security election with his immigration case.
Well, we can imagine that the folks in the White House are working with him now to prepare whatever remarks he may make tonight or in the morning, if, as Chris Buzzkirk says, is true, and they start the next campaign tomorrow morning. Amna Nawaz, Lisa Desjardins, they've been looking at some of these new races and new numbers that races we're able to call, new numbers we have and what they mean. Amna, over to you.
Thanks, Judy. Over here in our Here's the Deal corner, we're focusing in on all those key races we've been keeping track of over the course of the night. The more information we get, the more results we can input into our charts. You get a picture like this. Let's bring up our balance of power. This is looking at House races so far. Lisa, set the table for us again. We can't remind people enough what it is we're looking at here.
All right, the goal line is in the middle, which doesn't happen often, does it? But in this case, the goal line is in the middle. And you see, of course, Republicans on the right. The red, dark red are seats that have already been called. These are guaranteed, or so says the Associated Press, seats for the Republicans. The pink are places where Republicans are leading. And
Okay, so there are starting to be news outlets now that are saying Democrats are taking the House tonight. There are a number of networks that are starting to call that. Let's see what some different websites are saying. Let's just pop around and see. Let's see what's happening on CNN to begin with. Democrats' Senate path is closing, they say. House too close to call. Okay, so that's very, very different. Does appear that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is going to be elected. CNN projects Democratic Senator Bob Menendez withstands ethics probe to keep Senate seat in New Jersey. Okay, there's that. Let's see. I believe that Fox News is indeed saying that Democrats have taken the House. Fox News is now projecting Democrats win the House of Representatives. Would Fox News be so sly as to say this while voting is still going on the West Coast to try to influence the results? I don't know. Would they? Would they do that? Or are they just saying what ultimately every network is going to say? I don't know. Let's go to NBCnews.com. This is not the article I was looking for. NBCnews.com. Let's see if we can find it. NBCnews.com. NBC News House estimate. Democrats have a 65% chance of winning a majority. Okay, that's not super interesting to me. So maybe we'll leave that and come back to it a little bit later. What is clear is that in just 8 minutes, a number of additional seats are going to close. Officially, Democrats have only gained 3 seats in the House as of right now. And it is getting to that point in the night where I assume the calls are going to get even more wacky. It's getting to the point in the night where I have found no Fernet, but very, very good whiskey, and I'm going to sample it right now. Who bought this crap? No, I'm kidding. It's very, very good. And we're going to start hoping for the best now. In the next 7 minutes, we are going to have a lot of new results. So right now, +3 for Democrats in the House. We have -1 for Democrats in the Senate, so far tracking roughly my prediction from earlier. And Ted Cruz has taken a lead in Texas, but it's still very early, only 9%. Once we get 25, 30, 35%, I think the numbers will start to become more clear. And a lot of non-surprises on the gubernatorial side, but Democrats have gained this 1 seat in Illinois so far. As I mentioned, J.B. Pritzker defeating incumbent Republican Bruce Rauner, I assume it's pronounced. So a lot of stuff going on there. I am going to go back to the phones momentarily at 617-830-4750, and maybe we can get a couple of opinions in before we get the next round of results. Let me briefly just get caught up on Super Chats. Nick Angelos says, tell me you're not leaving to get seltzer. Nope, I didn't. Joachim Nielsen says, what's your favorite type or brand of alcohol? I don't know. I mean, I don't really have too many favorites, but I would say like really good vodka is good, with seltzer water and a lime, pretty simple. Or I'm a fan of, I'm Argentinian, so obviously I like Fernet. Oscar H, are you with the vote blue no matter who? No, I think that in practice, I would end up voting blue in most cases, but I am not part of vote blue no matter who. I've not even actually heard of that, to be honest. Dinchild asks, opinion on Dean Heller? Also, if the right keeps control, what does that mean for our country in the foreseeable future? Are we intolerant and racist? Well, we will leave the judgments about intolerance and racism for a future day. But what it means for Democrats, if they can't even take the House tonight, is bye-bye. It's 2 more years of this stuff, and it is a much steeper uphill climb in 2020. That's what it means. Let's quickly check in on what's going on with Dean Heller, because there was a question about it in Nevada. Dean Heller. Oh, we've got nothing so far. We've got no data whatsoever so far. Okay, so let me try to get dialed in again to the call system. Let's see.
Thank you for calling into the David Pakman Show. Please do not use speakerphone. Have your question ready and listen for David to call out your area code.
Some people have been holding a long time here. Let's see if we can go to the first one. Just takes a second to get everything. I don't even know what the word is for our phone system to be prepared. You have to prepare the phone system to take phone calls. Let's go to our caller from the 612 area code who has been holding for 50 minutes. I am sure that you have an extraordinary topic or question. 612. 612.
Hey.
How are you?
Man. Hey, calling from Louisiana 2nd District here.
Oh, cool.
State election, ballot measure that might be of interest. We currently do not require unanimous juries in the state of Louisiana to hold over from the Jim Crow era, so hopefully we change that tonight.
That is stunning, and I did not know that. That is amazing.
Yes. They wanted to keep the prisons full so they could keep a basically free labor force.
Right.
After slavery. So my question for you is, so if the Democrats manage to take the House, what's the impact on the tariff situation? Because, obviously Congress is supposed to have the power, at least under the Constitution, to regulate commerce with foreign nations. Do you think they could get allies with the Republicans to try to take that power back from the executive?
It depends on whether Republicans want to do what most of them probably know is the right thing, or whether they need to continue currying favor with Donald Trump. It'll ultimately depend on that. And I don't think we're going to know that until things shake out and we actually get the next Congress sworn in. But I like the way you're thinking, because it would be great to undo that. The problem with tariffs is it's not just as simple as the U.S. going, oh, you know what, we're going to cancel that. Because other countries also have put in place retaliatory tariffs, and it's probably going to require a type and level of diplomacy that I've not seen the Trump administration be capable of so far.
Yeah. Do you think in this modern era, I mean, obviously lots changed since the Constitution was written. Do you think, Trump aside, future presidents, do you think it would be good to take that power away from the executive?
I'd have to think about that. I know that there are people for whom the power of the executive, be it that they think it should have more or more often less, is like the most important issue. It's not an issue I've studied enough to really be able to give you an informed opinion tonight.
Okay. And I have another question. Who do you want to be Speaker of the House?
Oh man, I mean, listen, I want a real progressive to be Speaker of the House, and I would be flexible on who it is. I think Ro Khanna is awesome, but like, is anybody talking about Ro Khanna being Speaker of the House? No. I think it should be because it's not actually really in play, like it's not really open right now. I actually haven't considered if I could just pick anybody. I think that it's good for it to be someone with somewhat significant experience in order for them to have clout and sort of negotiating status. But I would want it to be a true progressive. That's where I would fall on it. I'd have to think about like my top 5 choices to be Speaker of the House if I could pick. That's a good question, though.
Yeah. What do you think about Nancy Pelosi?
Oh, I mean, she's way to the right of me. I think that the most likely scenario from what I see now, if Democrats take the House, is she agrees to not stay too much longer in exchange for getting the speakership back, and then it's passed to somebody else. That's the most likely scenario in my mind.
Right.
All right, thank you for the call. Really appreciate it. Let's see if we can get one more call in before we do some more results. Let's go to the 475 area code, or it might be country code 47. I can't tell. 47, 475, who's there?
Hey, David, it's Luke from Connecticut.
Oh, hey, Luke, what's going on?
I just wanted to call in. So I grew up in southwestern Connecticut. My father was a state legislator for 12 terms. He was a Democrat. And he passed away a few years ago. Actually, Cenk Uygur with TYT did a segment on him. And I the only thing I'm happy about that he has not seen the state of the affairs that the country is in currently. The last caller touched on, Nancy Pelosi being Speaker of the House or whatever, and you had said that if she did take, the agreement would be that she would step down, not shortly thereafter, but at some point. But do you think that realistically that would happen once she got the Speaker of the House? Do you think that she would step down if that was in fact the agreement? And she would. I would love to see Ro Khanna
Absolutely.
as the Speaker of the House. I just don't think it would happen.
If Nancy Pelosi made a deal that involves her stepping down because she says, I plan to retire after some amount of time, I think she absolutely would do it. You can make a lot of criticisms of Nancy Pelosi, but if she negotiated a deal that includes her stepping down, I think she absolutely would do it. Listen, I got to go to results. I appreciate the call. Let's see what's coming in right now.
New York 11, that's
and the audio level seems to be so low. Let's see what else we've got.
Of broadcast networks or by the Associated Press, which for the first time this year is partnering with Fox News to analyze exit polls and to project winners. So here we go with the call. This is Kansas, the 3rd Congressional District. Sharice Davids defeating Kevin Yoder. Kevin is a pickup. By our calculation, this is the 9th pickup tonight for Democrats, a Republican seat. Sharice Davids is a lawyer. She will be the first lesbian Native American in Congress. So there are a number of historic firsts tonight, and we're able to call this one. This again in the state of Kansas in the 3rd District. Here we go to New Jersey, and to a woman we just spoke with a few minutes ago, earlier in the last hour, Mikey Sherrill defeating the Republican. This is an open seat, but it was held by a Republican. Rodney Frelinghuysen held that seat for, I think, decades. Jay Weber, state assemblyman, lawyer, was running to hold on for Republicans, but Mikey Sherrill, retired Navy pilot, former federal prosecutor, as we said, I think, a little bit ago. Some people described it as the golden resume for Democrats. She has able to pull that out.
Nice win.
It is late. The polls in New Jersey closed a few hours ago. So I think some people thought that race would be called sooner, but we are projecting it for Mikey Sherrill.
Here we go.
Here's a win for the man who wanted to be elected president in 2012. He's now been elected to the United States Senate. Mitt Romney.
There you go.
Projected the winner in the state of Utah. He
Willard
was running
Mittens.
against a Democrat, Jenny Wilson, but Utah, of course, a very Republican state. There was never any doubt that Mitt Romney would win. Less than 1% of the vote count. In fact, there's no vote counted, but the experts believe it's safe to project Mitt Romney the winner here. And here in the state of Michigan, with 22% of the vote, we are able to project a winner for the Democrats, Gretchen Whitmer, defeating Bill Schuette, the Republican.
Very nice.
Again, only 22% of the vote in, But it looks as if, and I guess the polls there closed just about an hour ago. But Bill Schuette was seen as, I'm looking up the resume right now. He was the Attorney General in Michigan. It was an open seat held by Republican Rick Snyder. It turned out to be a fairly unpopular governor there for a number of reasons. Gretchen Whitmer, former county prosecutor. That is a flip for the Democrats. One
Huge.
of several flips, Republican to Democrat, of state houses we've seen this evening. So where do we begin, David Brooks? Some good news in this.
All right, good. So let's see where we are right now. Let's start with the House as we have been doing. 86 to 102. Democrats so far have gained 6 seats. They need to gain 25, meaning they need to gain 19 more. As I mentioned, Fox News has decided already to call the House for Democrats. We will see when it becomes actually official. Let's go over to the Senate, 38 to 46. So far, Democrats are down a seat. Democrats down a seat in Indiana, where incumbent Joe Donnelly has lost to Mike Braun. That is the seat they have lost, and otherwise everything is staying even. And then over on the governor's side, Democrats have now gained, as we just heard there from Judy Woodruff, not only did they gain the governorship of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker defeating Bruce Rauner, they also now have picked up Michigan. They have flipped Michigan. Gretchen Whitmer has defeated Bill Schuette. You have to be careful when you say that one. Bill Schuette. That can't be how it's said. I don't know how it's pronounced, but Bill lost. We can be sure of that because we have the data, we have the numbers. So let's see. At this point, I believe that really things would have to change drastically for Democrats to get a real shot here in the Senate, and I still think that it's going to be -1 or -2 for Democrats in the Senate. But I hope I'm wrong. The House is really where we are going to be paying very, very close attention, +6 for Democrats right now. Let me pick up on another. Actually, you know what? I'll pick up on calls in a second. I got to get caught up. I'm sorry. I have so much stuff. So I promise thank yous to every new member and patron. And it's awesome that there are so many of you to thank. Kyle Forster, new member. Thank you. Noah, new patron, $5 a month. Thank you. Taylor Neal, new patron, $5 a month. Really appreciate that. Matthew Begg is a new member at www.joinpacman.com. Mitchell Turner is a new member. And I mentioned Nicole Reglado already. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The 40% off coupon code is done at midnight. It is done. Might be midnight Pacific, though, in which case you've got like 5 hours still. You save 40%. You support independent media. I say your name. We all understand that you're a great person. And then we go on with our lives and we continue doing the things we do. What else can I say? Let me get caught up now that we are caught up there. Let me get caught up on Super Chats. And I have a very, very big announcement to make. Earlier today, we had set a high watermark for Super Chats of $200. That has now been blown out of the water by a penny by Mike Smith, who has a $200.01 super chat, the highest of the evening. New high, he says, love the show, David, hoping for a blue wave, but have my doubts that it will happen. You and me both, Mike. Thank you so much. Really appreciate the support. $200.01. Can we do $200.02? Are we going to see that tonight? Let's see. Jane Woman Power sending a $2 Canadian super chat, and I appreciate that. Taylor DeMarkin, MBCHB Farm D. I guess it's a pharmacist. Taylor the pharmacist, I would say. $4.99. Why are some of the polls so varied? For example, CBS says Texas is at 70% reporting for the Senate race, but the New York Times has it at 12%. Yeah, I really don't know. Let's look at the Senate right now for Beto O'Rourke and see where they have it. They have it now at, they just have it at 15%. I don't know the answer to that. I mean, it's very clear that they're using different algorithms or relying on different data or using different data processing firms, if that's how they do it. I don't know. But what I'm seeing on the New York Times right now is 18 plus 67 is 85,000 votes by which Beto O'Rourke is losing to Ted Cruz, and still a lot left to happen. We have only 6 or 7% of Dallas reporting, which is going to go overwhelmingly for Beto O'Rourke. We have, only one of 159 precincts in Travis County, which includes Austin, Texas, where Beto O'Rourke right now is doing very well. So that's a lot of data still left to go. We have under 10% of Harris County, which includes Houston reporting, which is trending towards Beto O'Rourke, but not as overwhelmingly as Austin, for example. And then in San Antonio, Bexar County, also a big one for Beto O'Rourke, only about an eighth, right around an eighth of precincts reporting. So there's still a lot of data to go there, but I don't know why we are seeing such drastically different numbers on different places. Jonathan Leviton with a $5 super chat. Thank you. Appreciate that as well. And on that note, let's go back to the phones and to our caller from the 281 area code. Caller from 281, welcome. Thank you for holding on. I know you've been holding for a while. What's going on?
Hey, David, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, excellent. I just want to preface this question by pointing out that it seems to me in sort of the Trump age of the Republican Party, they've gone beyond simply being neocons to just this kind of hyper-populist, sort of halfway, just sort of legitimizing conspiracy theories and basically just basing their entire political platform off of things that just are just imaginary, boogeymen, etc. Yeah, so with that obviously comes a huge and hugely effective propaganda apparatus that it doesn't seem to me that Democrats, and I don't mean progressives, I specifically am referring to Democrats, establishment Democrats have been able to fight whatsoever. So that's why the blue wave that we've been talking about doesn't seem like it's going to happen. So we're in the worst case scenario, how would you say that we can push back against this sort of Trumpian politics that the Republicans have been playing on people? Do we have to fight back with an equally strong propaganda campaign ourselves, or because it seems that people are impervious to facts on these issues? So I just kind of don't know what you think we should do.
Yeah, so there's a couple different issues in there, all good ones. Number one, you are absolutely correct that at this point, we have seen it's not even really like it's not Trumpism is not really conservatism in any kind of sort of standard definition of what it means to be conservative. So that's number one. So you have a Republican Party who is now in a situation, as we get too early to call numbers still with Beto O'Rourke in Texas, although he is now down by 3 percentage points. Not good. You have a Republican Party that is going to have to at some point decide, are they sticking with Trump because they're sticking with Trump, even though it's not really conservatism because they say Democrats are worse, which many of them do? Or at a certain point, is the Republican Party going to try to go back to what they see as principled conservatism? If they do, that's actually an opportunity for the left, because honestly, right now, especially the way tonight is shaping up yet again, and I've been extraordinarily skeptical of the so-called blue wave for a long time, and we now have Ted Cruz as a projected winner. Bye-bye to Beto O'Rourke, another possibility buried, even though I didn't account for that in my calculation. I accounted for Ted Cruz winning in my prediction. I don't know how you fight it.
I'm from Texas, by the way, so.
I don't know how you fight it. I really don't, because truth no longer matters. And I don't know what to do. And I don't know that we're going to figure it out tonight, but it's definitely not compromising on values and policy. But there are maybe going to need to be some real changes in terms of the dynamics of politics if the left wants to really succeed. And, there will be people who say if the left just disavowed identity politics, then they'd win. I just, toxic identity politics are a problem. It's not a huge problem, and it's not the way to start winning all over the place. It's a problem to deal with, but it's not like the problem. So I think you're going to see a lot of people on the left propose solutions that aren't really solutions, and we should also be careful about accepting those.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't want to keep it too long for other people, but just since you bring it up, I just want to mention this. Identity politics, so-called, and then as well as a lot of the other things that certain good segments of the progressive movement in America want to play, or issues they try to play up that they say we need to address. I actually think it's a terrible idea to even touch those issues right away, at least, because that is the whole reason that the Trumpian Republicans have been able to attract such a huge, voter bases, because they're pissed off at exactly those kinds of issues. So the more we try to draw attention to them, the more support Trump is going to be able to get. So that's why I was asking if we should just give up on playing to facts, so to speak, and just wage kind of a ideological campaign.
We don't give
Not
up
that
on
we lie to
we
people,
don't
but
give up
if
on we don't give up on facts because it still matters empirically speaking. But we've got to realize that merely showing the right what the facts are doesn't work. That's what we've got to realize.
Right. Yeah. Well, I wasn't saying give up on facts, but I mean, if we should focus more on a broader picture as
Yes.
far as trying to expose why they're full of it.
Absolutely. We have to make the case big picture without fact checking every story that Trump is not good for the middle class. The average worker is not going to benefit from the Trumpian politics. That's a bigger picture thing, and I think you're spot on. And I really appreciate the call. Thank you so much for calling in. We do have a situation now where Republican control has been called of the Senate by NBC News. It looks like they're talking to Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Let's see what's going on.
Great night, particularly when it comes to the Senate, and still some solid wins in the House with folks like Andy Barr. But look, the president's going to fight for exactly what he's laid out, regardless of who's in control in the House. The president's going to be able to work with Democrats and Republicans to make sure we're getting things done, because that's what he came to Washington to do. He's laid out a bold agenda, and we'd expect him to continue to follow through and have another successful 2 years, just like he's had the previous 2 years.
The president announced some regrets today in an interview about the tone that he has had as president. Are there any regrets about going after immigration? It looked like the number one topic for voters this time around was health care.
Not at all. This is a topic in a huge crisis on the border. The president is going to focus on problems that this country has, and he's going to continue to do that. He's been talking about this for a long time, and we want to see the solutions actually take place. We have to secure our border.
Maybe the most full of it press secretary in the history of the United States, and Sean Spicer wasn't that long ago, and I think it's still not even close. Let's see what else is going on the phones. 229 area code. 229. What's going on?
Hi, David.
Hey.
My name's Tyler. I'm calling as a progressive from the southernmost corner of Georgia.
Great.
Obviously, Stacey Abrams isn't doing great in our race for governor, and I'm sure that you've seen a lot of these incidents involving voter suppression. There was an incident in Gwinnett County with malfunctioning voting machines where people had to stand in line for over 3 hours, stuff like that.
Yep.
Not to mention this growing news from Florida next door has got me pretty bummed. I mean, I might be moving there next year for my master's program, and I really wanted things to turn out okay. And obviously not everything is counted, but sometimes it's really hard to remain hopeful down here in the Bible Belt.
Yep.
If I had a question out of any of this, it would just be, do you have any advice for progressives like me who sometimes feel kind of helpless?
Well, listen, here's the thing. The good thing about Georgia is that even though it's not looking good for Stacey Abrams, 52%, the data I have is she's down 10 with 52% reporting. That's what I'm seeing right now on the New York Times. The good news is that in a sense, if you live in Georgia, if you live in Texas, if you're in Florida, these are places where activism has much more of a chance of actually changing the next 10 or 20 years in those places, because in Massachusetts, we elect Republican governors every once in a while, but it's a very blue state and it's going to remain blue, and we're going to keep moving to the left and doing those things. But it's a very different type of activism than being in a place that is part of the potentially, looks like someone just got disconnected, potentially to be turned blue. I think I just got disconnected. I apologize. That is really weird. I got kicked off of my own phone line, which is nuts. I am going to briefly just reset the phone system. It's overloaded. We have like 30 people holding. I'm going to briefly reset it just so we can take it from the top and continue taking calls. My advice is you can have more of an impact in places where it's not clear that it's going to be a blue place, because your vote, in a sense, kind of matters more. And so I think that that's how I would sort of keep my head up, so to speak. Let me try to get back into our phone system.
Thank you for calling into the David
It's crazy.
Pakman
I'm
Show.
getting kicked off of my own phone
Please
system.
do not use speakerphone. Have your question ready and listen for David to call out your area code.
Okay. I'm going to go next to 828 as soon as we get reconnected here. Should just be just another second or two. Okay. Let's go now to our caller from the 828 area code. You're on.
Is that me?
That is indeed.
Hi, this is Leland calling from Asheville, North Carolina.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'd like to first say to everyone that you should absolutely take advantage of the 40% off David Pakman membership, which
Thank
I
you.
just did.
Pleasure.
But also, my big question is not necessarily for this election, but maybe for the next election. Like, how can I convince family and loved ones to like just listen to facts? Because I feel like in my it's very funny, but like every time I think that I debate these people and my family and my friends, they throw at me these facts that just aren't true. And I often have to go look them up after the fact because I've never heard them, and it ends up not being true. And I'm just not sure what to do. I also have a second follow-up question to this, but anyways,
Well, let me ask you this.
There you go.
Let's say when one of these people cited something that you later find out wasn't true. Let's say you knew right when they said it that it wasn't true, and you said that to them. Would it really make any difference to them?
Maybe not.
I think it probably would.
I guess
And
that's
that's the
just
problem. That's the problem we're dealing with. That it actually doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're right. The follow-up question is basically just every time I tend to win in one of these arguments, a family member will just bring up abortion as like the alternate point. It's just like, do you support killing babies? And I'm just like, most of the time I'm just like, screw you. Like, that's such a
Well, here's the thing. So that's called sneaking in the premises, because they're asking you about the killing of babies, but you, I'm guessing, don't actually agree that it is killing babies for abortion. Let's just hold that thought for a second.
I don't agree with that at all.
NBC
Like,
News
I don't think it's killing babies.
NBC News is now reporting that the Democrats have taken control or will take control of the House of Representatives. So as I predicted, and listen, what the hell do I know? I was totally wrong in 2016. The House will go to the Democrats and the Senate will remain in Republican hands. That's what it's going to be, although we will need the rest of the night to shake out exactly how it goes. So yeah, listen, I mean, here's the thing. When it comes to abortion, you've got to just make them explain why it's killing a baby, right? So that's the point. And make them defend that. Some of them will be able to and some won't. But don't cede any premises when they're assuming the premises.
Thank you. Yeah,
All right.
that makes a lot of sense. Also, I also apologize if I didn't make much sense. I have had a bit too much to drink tonight. But,
Okay. What are you
it is
drinking
what it
over
is.
there?
I mean, I'm drinking some good vodka, as you were mentioning earlier.
I mean, not that I guess maybe we shouldn't even say because it might appear to be sponsored content, and you don't have a problem. You're not a problem drinker.
I mean, it's Stoli vodka, but
okay, that could be a problem actually. That may be that could be problematic.
What?
No, I'm kidding. Okay, thank you
All
so
right,
much
well,
for the call.
hope you have a
luck
good
down
night.
there.
Yep.
Really appreciate it. Let's see who else we've got. A caller from the 952 area code who's been holding for more than an hour. If you hold more than an hour, 952, then I know you're bringing me something huge.
Hey, thanks, David. How are you doing tonight?
Good.
Hey, so I'm calling from Minnesota, and I have two questions for you tonight. We still don't know how things are going to quite turn out, but with this how do I phrase it? Immigration is a huge topic for this election.
Yeah.
And I have a few close loved ones who are actually dreamers.
Mm.
And I was wondering what your thoughts are on what the possibilities are for, what might happen in the near future with that.
I actually think that even if Republicans, I mean, the House has already been called for Democrats, as many people are pointing out. But I think even if it weren't, even if Republicans retain control of the House and Senate, I think that the political costs to kicking out kids who came here when they weren't, kicking out people who came here when they were kids is just not going to be politically viable, period. So I actually think the Dreamers are going to be okay, although they will be thrown around as a political football. And if you are one of them, you are going to be worried about what your future status is going to be. With the Democrats taking over control of the House, I think Dreamers are going to be okay.
I gotcha. Do you think a eventual pathway to citizenship is something you see, or
I would hope so, and that seems like absolutely the right path forward. But it might that may not happen between 2018 and 2020. Realistically, we'll have to see.
I gotcha. And then my second question was, well, not really a question, but for Minnesota, for their 5th district, did you see, I don't know how to pronounce her name, but I think it's Ihan Omar. Looks like she won that.
I didn't see that.
I think she's a Justice Democrat.
Okay, I'll check that out when we look at the state a little more closely. I did not see that. Thank you for the call. Really appreciate it. Okay, I see Brody wants to get on, and I'm going to put Brody on briefly. But Brody calls in a lot, and he's all over the place. So what's going on, Brody?
Hey, I was just going to say, I just wanted to let you know there was an emergency injunction that was filed and upheld for 9 polling places in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
That was keeping the polls open until 8 to 8:15 p.m. in Harris County, which largely leaned towards Hillary. So it's obviously not looking so great for O'Rourke, but I just wanted to say as a little hope nugget out there that we are obviously seeing still lower numbers in Texas.
Yeah, Brody, it's been called. It's been called for Ted Cruz. I don't know if you saw, but Ted Cruz won, as far as I know.
I did see. So
yeah,
just want to say that. Also, one last thing: there is a Discord that you can check out on the David Pakman subreddit, which Weeznaz is now the king of, and come visit us there. We are happy to chat and hang out. And I love you, David.
All right, Brody. Always great to hear from Brody, and he's involved in all sorts of hijinks, I've noticed. Okay, I'm gonna go. So listen, Sean from Denver is back on hold, and he's the guy who was completely shot out of a cannon before. He was so entertaining that I'm willing to put him back on, maybe with like a 30-second limit or something like that. But if I'm going to monitor the regular chat, do people want to hear 30 seconds more Sean from Denver, who was completely shot out of a cannon? Let's take a look at what people say. And if they want to hear from him, we'll put him on, and otherwise, no. 1 yes. Bunch of people saying yes. 30 seconds more. Yes. 1 no. Yes, hell yeah, yes. Okay. All right. Sean, I'm going to you a second time because you were so on fire the first time, but we've got to limit it to 30 seconds. Go.
I got you, dude. And 45 seconds, and then we'll be good. I don't generally call into shows like this, but
you've used 10 already talking about the amount of time you've been allocated.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, all right. Then, so look.
Yeah.
Kill me over here. All right. So I honestly think like there is good news in this, but there's always good news, and is that we can always come together. The problem that I see, and I think that we've seen a lot with this situation, is that we're not really engaged with the issues. And okay, Jimmy, 5 seconds, bro. I didn't think that I was going to be on here real quick, but
okay. Sean, I'm grading this one not as high as the first one.
I got it.
3,
so
2,
at the end
1,
of the day, okay. At the end of the day, we have the capacity to change the entire narrative of this situation, and we have the capacity to actually come together. I think the major functional problem that we've been having is that we haven't been engaged with each other in real consistent manners. And the higher level of consistency we have with each other, the better able we are to sustain an argument. Like Gillum and all of that other stuff are having problems because of the fact that we're not getting out our message. And more so than that, we're not having the capacity to engage with Republicans in a serious capacity. Like, there was a caller who talked about, like, do we need progressives with a backbone strong like Donald Trump? We do, but we need people who can spit the facts. You know what I mean? We need people who not only have the capacity to know the facts, but who can argue like a freaking Ben Shapiro. The thing with Ben Shapiro, and I've argued with these people, they don't care about facts. They don't care about the truth. They don't care about the reality. What they care about is sustaining their narrative. You need to attack them on the narrative. And like that, if a person says they're pro-life and pro-Christian, hit them where it counts. What did Jesus say in the parable of the sheep and the goats? Help the poor, sick, and hungry. More so than even that, for I was a stranger and you welcomed me. Welcome to the kingdom of heaven. For I was a stranger and you did not welcome me. Now go to hell for literal eternity. That was Jesus' basic message. And what Jesus was talking about, he was talking about refugees, people in such dire need of help that you need to help them. This was a message of fucking Christ. And at the end of the day, the Republican Party has somehow conceded or has the high ground on the morality of fucking Christianity when Jesus was the epicenter of it all. It is insane. And the fact that we don't argue against any of this is more so insane. It is mind-blowing. Read what Jesus said. It's for the poor, the sick, the hungry, the needy, healthcare, freaking food stamps, freaking refugees. You want to talk about the Christian message? The Christian message is anti-Donald Trump, but the people who fucking are arguing against Donald Trump, they don't argue. Sorry.
Sean, you've said it all. That was a very, very long 45 seconds. The chat has exploded. It's a phenomenon. It's incredible what's taking place here right now, and you're making a lot of good points. Thank you for the passion, and we're going to move on with the evening because we simply must move on. Let me deal with a couple of super chats before we go back to the calls. Let's see, where did I leave off? Jonathan Leviton, $5. Thank you. Skull Lord, €2. Cheers from Germany. How is Ojeda doing? Ojeda or Ojeda in Virginia? Well, let's take a look at that. No, it's West Virginia, and I've got to go over to the house. Let's take a look here. What do we have? Oh, man. Oh, there it is. He is getting crushed. Yeah, so that's not the best. Let's see. Is it just me? Lauren's42 says, is it just me or is a blue wave not even remotely possible right now? Listen, I don't know how you define that, but I thought Democrats would take the House and Republicans the Senate, and that's what's happening. Waiting to Fade asks or says 2 House districts in Utah could turn blue. Yes, Utah's District 2 and I'm only seeing 2 as the one that might turn blue. But it might. We're going to watch it. We're going to watch that very, very closely. Oscar H., the reason there is no blue wave is because progressives have to run against both Republicans and corporate Democrats. Interesting. The Epic 22, take the House, then take the other House in 2020. Yannick Wilson from Canada. Very disappointing to see people still vote for Republicans. Anyways, love your show. Hope you continue doing great, making great content. Thank you. One of the ways that we continue doing that is when we grow our base of financial support. Paul Knopf just signed up at www.joinpacman.com, which allows us to keep doing that. Can we, listen, let's, it's time for the rubber to meet the road at this point. Are people open to the idea of doing a Patreon challenge? Right now, we are at 1,672 patrons. In the interests of 2020 and continuing to build, can we get 28 more patrons this evening and just get to 1,700, and then we can move on to 1,800 and bigger and beyond? It's just $1 a month is all you need to do to add your name. Every single one of you who does it will get a shout out from me. Patreon.com/David Pakman Show. Hit the orange Become a Patron button. I'm actually not colorblind. And everybody will get a shout out, and it'll be a beautiful thing, and maybe we can get to 1,700. Okay, let's see who else we have on the phones. 703 area code. 703 who's been holding for an hour. What's going on?
Hello?
That is you.
Oh, I'm a 15-year-old from Virginia.
Okay.
It's turning blue, I guess. My question is related to gun control. A lot of people I know say we have a people problem, and I don't really get that. And it's obvious that the problem is with guns. We have more guns than like any other country, and all of those countries with less guns have less homicide, gun deaths. And I'm just wondering, how do I try to convince them?
It depends on which argument they are making, because somebody saying more guns make people safer is different than someone making a constitutional argument, is different than someone making, there's a lot of different arguments. There's really no one way. I mean, I think that the people who just say it's the argument you're referring to is guns don't kill people, people kill people. And the answer to that, of course, is yes, people kill people with guns, and the more deadly the guns are and the more guns they have access to, the more people they can kill. Like there's a pretty clear response to that, but really it's just talking points, It's not very substantive. So what would be better is, if I were you, the approach I would take is, rather than researching anti-gun arguments, research pro-gun arguments and then analyze the best way to pick those arguments apart. Like, make the strongest possible version of every pro-gun argument and figure out how to diffuse it. That's my advice to you.
All right, thank you.
All right,
I'll use
thank
that
you.
in debate. Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you for the call very, very much. Let's go to our next caller from the 724 area code. Caller from 724, go ahead. 724, maybe we're muted because you were on hold, but we can't hear you. Feel bad because they waited a while, but 724, one last shot? Nope. All right. Let's go to our caller from the 978 area code. 978 is, that's Massachusetts, right?
Yeah, how's it going, David?
How you doing?
Pretty good. I'm actually not from Massachusetts. I'm from Texas.
Oh, okay. Is 978 a Massachusetts area code, though?
Probably. I'm using Google Voice. I don't know.
All right, go ahead. What's going on?
Well, first I gotta express my sadness, my remorse for my good pal Beto O'Rourke.
Indeed.
Yeah, it's a little sad. But mostly, I'm wondering. So it's projected that Democrats are going to take the House, right?
Yes.
What would you say is, if the Democrats want to push a progressive agenda, what do you think should be the number one cause that they start working towards from day one?
The answer to that depends on what is going on with Republicans at the time, because you can make the case that the number one priority should be healthcare. But at the same time, if what you want is Medicare for all, and that's just simply not going to happen with a Republican Senate and Trump in the White House, then maybe you pick something that you can make progress on, if that makes sense. So I tend to get away from these kind of universal, here is the issue Democrats should deal with. Also, it depends on what from the Republicans you need to counter. So if Republicans do try to follow through and do another one of these destructive tax reform plans, then Democrats need to really activate around preventing that from happening. If they don't do that, then maybe Democrats can really make some progress on climate change, for example. So I think it's very situational.
Yeah, no, I feel that too. I like how you take a more strategic approach to it, because some people might just say, oh, well, we need to fix healthcare. Right, but if that's not going to be a good use of your time, then maybe you want to do something else. Thinking about like progressive strategies, then I'm thinking back to another call that you just had with another gentleman who talked about narratives and whatnot, and then you talked about the importance of being able to use their language.
Yes.
So for a little while in the past, I identified as alt-right, and I would say that I was kind of firmly in that for a little while. Now I would say that I'm a lot more progressive. I've kind of been disillusioned from the whole thing. But during that time, I learned all of the right-wing narratives, right? So I'm now at a point where I can argue anything on the right. And I think that it kind of becomes a bit more like useful once you're in conversations to be able to use their language. So I guess my follow-up question to that all would be, is there anything right now that Democrats are really bad at, by your estimation, when it comes to speaking the right language?
Yeah, I mean, on economic issues, the language that Democrats use, even though I think that they are right on the policies, it Democrats are right on economic policy within certain bounds. I mean, I'm to the left of most Democrats on economic policy, but to the extent that they are to the left of Republicans, Democrats are providing better options than Republicans on economic policy. But the average working person is not getting that message. And it's just a massive, massive failure. And George Lakoff has written a lot about the poor messaging from Democrats on all issues, including economic. And I just think it's a major failure. They've got to fix that.
Yeah, no, I like that you bring up Lakoff. I read him a lot in college. I studied psycholinguistics, so using language to learn about the mind.
Exactly.
And part of that, yeah, like I did a whole project actually once on I don't mean to digress too much, but I find it interesting. It's what Trump voters saw in Trump versus what Bernie voters saw in Bernie. And this was before the election. This was during the primaries when Bernie still had a shot. Rest in peace. So it was cool to be able to show my all like liberal classmates like what the other side sees. I just have one last question. I don't want to take up your air. Do you smoke weed?
No, I don't.
Mushrooms?
I'm sorry?
Mushrooms?
Nope. Nope.
All right. Fair enough. All right, man. Peace out. You have a good night.
Okay, thanks. You too. Okay, let me do a couple super chats here. Let's see here. Where did I leave off? I think I left off with I'm dying inside for $2. Love your show. Do you know about Article 13 from the EU? I do not. I have not looked at that yet. Christina Ensel asks, thoughts on Colorado? Let's see what's happening in Colorado. So nothing going on in terms of the Senate. Colorado, Democrats now plus 12, by the way, in the House, even though it's already been projected that they're going to win there. Colorado has a bunch of Republican incumbents who are securing being reelected. And then you have this open district where it looks as though Joe Neguse is going to defeat Peter Yu. So I don't know that much about the internal workings of Colorado politics. I know that there are a bunch of conservative areas, as the map suggests, and then you've got some urban areas that have, and I see here we've got some other, actually, so that's actually a big deal. I didn't see that. You have in the first district, no, there was another one. Yeah, it's just so small. Jason Crow in the 6th district has taken out incumbent Republican Mike Kaufman, which is great. Good news. Good news from Colorado for sure. Okay, what else did I want to do? Oh, okay. So we're targeting 1,700 patrons by the end of the stream. If you appreciate the live stream, if you appreciate the show, consider throwing in $1 a month. We started minutes ago at $16.72. We are now up to $16.78. 22 more, just 22 more patrons, and we will hit 1,700. The people who are responsible for this are Alex, $2 a month. Theodore Simantirakis, that can't be how it's pronounced, but Theodore contributing $10 a month. David Corsi, $2 a month. Pearson Buck, $5 a month. Cheryl Alvarez has upped her pledge to $5 a month. Yahia Saridi, $2 a month. Yannick Wilson, $5 a month. Bryce Anderson, $2 a month. That's got to be more than $16.78. Let me refresh again. Nope, $16.78 is where we are. Let's hit 1,700. Let's do it. Let's do it before the Democrats officially take control of the House. Why don't we? Let's see what else is happening on the phones. 774, Massachusetts area code. What's going on? You've been holding for a while. Thank you.
Hello, is this me?
That's you.
Yeah, I was kind of confused about how they're determining the Ted Cruz race has been called, because it just says 33% of the vote so far.
Let's take a look at it. So I'm looking at the data in New York Times. New York Times has 38% of the vote, and they indeed have already called it for Ted Cruz, and I think basically everybody has. So I'm not defending their calling of it. What I'm going to tell you is sort of how they do these things. What they do is they start looking at areas where you would expect Beto O'Rourke to do better than Ted Cruz, like, for example, Travis County, and they see, are we still expecting any significant number of votes to come in there? If you look at Travis County, which has Austin, all precincts are reporting, meaning that Ted Cruz is not going to lose that lead on the basis of more liberal Austin votes. You look at Dallas. Dallas is only about 35% reporting, but they can calculate by how many votes would Beto need to win the remaining precincts in order to catch up. And they basically just make a call. They look at the places that they don't have numbers from, like Culbertson County and Hudspeth County, Lamb and Armstrong and Collingsworth, all places where Ted Cruz is going to win. And they end up coming up with something like, for example, in order for Beto O'Rourke to overcome the deficit, he would need to get 68% of the remaining precincts. I'm just making that up. And then, of course, he's not going to get 68% of the remaining precincts. And so they say Ted Cruz won. That's how they do it.
Okay. Yeah, and one thing is so there's been a lot of things about with social media and banning. What do you think about social media having the First Amendment as the only terms of use policy, meaning that unless it's illegal speech, and that's the only speech that could be banned?
Okay, so are you saying what would I think about making that the law?
No, I mean what I'm saying is you can obviously ban someone from a social media platform.
Sure.
If it's regulated like a public utility, but I mean if it's not, but if they just violate the terms of use, but just make it so that it only would ban kind of
illegal speech. No, I get it. But so I just want to make sure you're saying what would I think about social networks choosing to make that the policy, or am I in favor of mandating that they do that?
I guess anyone that would be a public utility, I guess you would have a choice, I guess. So if they want to have a public funding or something.
Yeah, but I don't know that social networks are looking to get public funding, right? So here, let me just answer the different versions of the question as I understand them. Would I be open? Yeah. Would I think it'd be great if a social network said our policy is if it's not illegal, we allow it? Sure, they can do that, and that's going to impact the amount of ad revenue they're able to get, and they can kind of make that call if that's what they want to do. It's up to them. That's lovely. Would I be okay with the government mandating that social networks allow all speech other than illegal speech? No, because quite frankly, I don't think that there's a legal foundation on which to do that right now. If you want to change the law and say that social networks must be considered town square under the purview of the First Amendment, where you can lobby to have that law changed. But no, I don't think that as the law currently stands, the government should say that social networks need to do that.
Yeah, okay. And one final question. I don't know, because you mentioned meditation on one of your videos.
Sure.
Have you heard of actualize.org, Leo Guerra?
No, can you say it once more? I didn't understand that.
Actualize.org, Leo Guerra. He just has a lot of interesting videos, and he's coming up, but he talks about things like that. So
no, I don't know who that is or what that is, but I'll check it out if I make a note of it. Thank you for the call. Really appreciate it. We do have another let me see, another 8 new patrons. Wow. Kyle Hubner, $2 a month. Lawrence Schnitzer, $2 a month. Marco Perez, $2 a month. Jason Enriquez. I always am unsure with the Portuguese spellings of some of those last names. $2 a month. Kai Dishart, $1 a month. Thank you. And we are targeting 1,700 patrons tonight. Let's just do it. Let's just get to 1,700 patrons and we can be done with it. And I won't mention it again. And it'll be a beautiful thing. Democrats taking the House if you're just joining us. Republicans maintaining control of the Senate. 617, big Massachusetts evening. Caller from the 617 area code. Go ahead.
Hello?
That's you.
Hi, it's Oscar from the sandwich shop again. I don't know if you remember me, but...
oh, hey, yeah, Oscar, what's going on? I was going to go in there today and grab a sandwich, and I ended up not having time.
Say it again, sorry, you broke up a little bit.
I almost ended up in there today getting a tuna sandwich, and then I didn't.
Oh, damn, yeah, I'm back in Philly anyway.
Oh, okay.
Also, one more thing before I ask my question. I also wanted to... Last time I called, you kind of implied that I was a vegan because I work there. I'm by no means a vegan. I just wanted to clarify that.
What are you? I implied you were vegan because you worked at a sandwich shop.
Well, no, no. In the call before, you said I don't know. You said I got a tuna sandwich. I tried a tuna salad sandwich and he was fine with it. regarding me.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm just
I mean,
whatever.
you didn't
Anyway,
seem offended by it, which is great.
no, it's all right. But yeah. I mean, I don't know. I've been kind of depressed recently. I mean, like when I turned on your stream, I was kind of hopeful about everything, but then the Beto thing really took a toll on me, and then the jealous and Gillum, and especially Ojeda. But my question is like, even like I'm glad we have the House, but like to what extent do you think a majority blue House will realistically impact progressive progress? Because to me, I feel like it's one of three things: either it works, and then a blue majority House would allow for progressive progress, or the Democrats could be too moderate and not be able to band together to promote progressive policies.
No, so here's the thing. Here's where I'm kind of at on this. I think that having the House. So my prediction earlier today was Democrats take the House, they don't take the Senate, and I outlined why that's useful. Number one, it's useful because if you control the House, you control investigations, and now you can actually investigate not just Trump, Russia, and that far stuff, but you can investigate other stuff. You can investigate fraud and corruption in Trump's cabinet. You can investigate all sorts of potential violations of the emoluments clause. So I think that controlling those investigations is important, not necessarily because of where the investigations will go, but to show that the corruption is far deeper in this administration than just what you're hearing about on corporate media. Number two, controlling the House is important because you are in a stronger position for 2020. I mean, you just are. And the ways in which that will manifest aren't totally clear yet, but it's better to try to unseat an incumbent president if you have control of at least something than if you don't. And the ways in which that will be visible are many, and we're going to see them. And if Republicans are planning on trying to do another one of these horrible tax plans, if you're in the House, if you control the House, you've got a really good shot at being able to stop it. So I think there's real value in controlling the House.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, you're breaking up. Sorry, you're breaking up a little throughout there, so I couldn't catch everything you said. But I think the monuments clauses and the exposing corruption, I guess that would be good. I mean, I just hope that somehow down the road that progressive ideas can be promoted in a way that allows it for change. Because I don't know, after tonight, I feel like I'm questioning the effectiveness of running on progressive ideals, and when it comes to going against Trump-like candidates.
No. You've got it. What's the alternative? Run as Trump light? I mean, you got to run. That's where disagree. You got to run on progressive ideas. It's just you got to run on them the right way.
Yeah, right. I really have to do them. I completely agree with that. I just feel like, in terms of Ojeda's case, I feel like he really did that in the right way, and he's getting crushed right now.
You look at where he's running, though. You can only do so much to overturn the baseline political demographics of the district, Oscar, thank you for the call. Yeah. Great to hear from you. We got a bunch of new patrons. I think we're going to hit 1,700. We went from 1,686 during that call to 1,691. We're only 9 away. Let's do it, folks. Eddie Chavesta has made a $2 pledge. Katie Nichols has made a $5 pledge. Thomas James has made a $5 pledge. Stephen Coyne has made a $2 pledge. Eric Guichard has made a $5 pledge. We're almost there. It's 9 more dollar contributions, and we make it. Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen by the end of this next phone call, which is with the 289 area code. Caller from 289, welcome. What's on your mind today?
Hey, I originally had something else to talk about, but I have to address something a previous caller said.
Okay.
He was very misinformed.
Mm-hmm.
So, first of all, if he wants to talk about what Jesus said, Jesus said in Luke 9:62 for farmers to sell their plows and to follow him in an itinerant lifestyle, which means anyone living in a fixed address cannot be a follower of Jesus, as this was his explicit strategy in peacefully eroding the tax base of Judea to non-violently persuade the Romans to leave the province.
Wow.
Secondly, in Matthew 5:17, Jesus explicitly says he has not come to abolish for biblical laws, and anyone calling themselves Christian must still observe certain feasts, such as the Feasts of Weeks. They must not eat pork or shellfish, and several other things that almost no American Christians calling themselves Christian actually do. So anyone attempting to inject Jesus into American politics on either side of the political spectrum has no fucking clue what they're talking about.
Okay.
That's all I have to say at this point, because I waited long enough and was distracted so much by someone who's clearly not a biblical scholar attempting
Wow.
to use the Bible for political purposes. Well,
Yeah.
I actually have that education. So, yeah.
Shots have
That's all
been
I have to
fired
say.
across the bow at Sean, who was shot out of a cannon, and appreciate the call. Can't tell you about whether any of that stuff was even remotely true, because I just don't care about the Bible. But it is interesting that that took place. Let's go to our next caller from the 650 area code. Caller from 650, go ahead. 650, are you there? You waited a long time. I want to give you your opportunity.
Oh, hi, David.
Yeah, that's you.
Hi. So.
Oh boy. Are we on speaker or Bluetooth? I hate to have to ask, but are we on speaker or Bluetooth?
Sorry, yeah, I was on speaker. I was
we were,
waiting
okay.
for a while. Sorry.
Gotcha. Sorry.
So Dianne Feinstein's beating Kevin De Leon in California. He's a Justice Democrat. And I think that there's a lot of trouble reaching like this new audience where there's not enough people watching TV and they're not seeing these commercials and not understanding the issues. I don't think there are enough people that have like really been exposed to different people's policies. And I'm wondering how you think that in like this new age of, you know, Generation Z and millennials where we're not using TV as much, how we're going to probably like target them.
Well, you're saying like how to target them technologically or how to target them ideologically? Like you're saying literally like what platforms do we use or what's the messaging that we should use?
Yeah, what's the, like sort of both, like what kind of platforms like could we be able to use?
Okay, well, I mean, listen, you've got to understand the power of incumbency is extraordinary. So the platforms, I think we know, we use social networks, we use online media. YouTube is such a place now for political advertising. Our shows in every state are riddled with political ads for people. That's the technological means. In terms of the ideology, you've got to espouse actual progressive values. It can't be Democrat light. Democrats can't be Republicans. Like it's got to be actual just progressive values. If that's what, if you want to be a progressive alternative to someone like Dianne Feinstein, then it's got to be full on progressive. And by the way, what's all that noise in the background? What's going on?
I'm not sure about that. Sorry.
All right. No, I'm just curious. Like, are you watching TV or?
No, I don't know what that's about. Probably my phone's messing up.
But are you sitting in a silent room right now?
Yeah.
Oh, weird. Because when I mentioned that it ended, but I really appreciate the call. I appreciate you waiting on hold. And I think you're bringing up extraordinary points that Democrats are going to need to figure out if they want to win. We have a bunch of new patrons and we are now up to 1,698. We are 2 patrons away from our goal of 1,700. Danny Rachman upped his pledge from $1 a month to $2 a month. Thank you. Mike Smith has pledged $5 a month. Aaron Larian has pledged, I didn't see it. It was either $2 or $5 a month. Nathaniel Tidwell has pledged $10 a month. Jake Foglia is a $2 patron. The Britannic is a $2 patron. Salvador Castaneda has made a pledge. Miguel Martinez has pledged $1. Ali Kurtz or Kurtzy has, Ali, not Ali, has pledged $2. And Amanda has pledged $2. And we are getting extraordinarily close to hitting 1,700 patrons. And we are getting extraordinarily close to Democrats officially taking over control of the House, although it's been called basically everywhere, as I predicted earlier today. Democrats taking control of the House, Republicans taking control of the Senate. It seems that this is satisfying a lot of people because the number of people on the stream are starting to sort of drop off. And before people who have sent super chats leave, I want to get through super chats. Reviki says Republican Party hasn't done enough damage. It's a cycle. Republicans ruin things. Americans then vote Democrats. Bush ruined the economy. Obama won. What are your thoughts? Well, America is cyclical in more ways than just that. But I agree with you. Yeah. Jackson says, David, what are your thoughts on a direct constitutional democracy? I don't buy the tyranny of the majority argument because otherwise it's tyranny of the minority, what we have now with Republicans. Yeah, that's a bad argument against a direct constitutional democracy. I think that there are pros and cons, and we're going to work on a video. We're doing a video. I want to do a video, and I've started thinking about it, where we're actually going to go through some of those systems one by one. Oscar H. says it's frustrating to see how people give corporate Democrats 40 years of nothing, but give progressives just a few tries and then give up. Absolutely fair point and well made. Anai 77. For anyone who does care about the Bible, please check out Brian Zand. Great books for politically progressive Christians. Very, very interesting. Not familiar with him. Art Flores has become a $2 a month patron, which now puts us at, and somebody else must have signed up because we are now at 1,700. Well, I think that the emails I get and those numbers are on a delay. Thank you. Our Patreon has been dying for the last 6 months because we've been so busy with the studio move and with so many other things that I've barely mentioned it. And 1,700 is awesome. And we want to get to 1,800. That's the next goal. And if anybody else pledges tonight, I will still say thank you. But we've reached 1,700, and I really appreciate that. Let's listen to Andrew Gillum's concession speech here.
For governor in Florida conceding, we have it as too close to call, but clearly they see otherwise. Ron DeSantis apparently will go on to be governor in Florida.
We will continue our coverage, top of the hour.
Lester Holt seemingly surprised there by the fact that Andrew Gillum was conceding, saying he doesn't actually see it that way. Let's see, necessarily see it that way. Let's see what the numbers are looking at. And the good news is that in terms of governors, I had predicted Democrats plus 1 or 2, and they have gained 3 so far. So if you weren't with us earlier, in Michigan, Democrats have taken over the governorship. Gretchen Whitmer has won. In Illinois, J.B. Pritzker has defeated incumbent Bruce Rauner. That is plus 2. And in New Mexico, Michelle Grisham has defeated Steve Pierce plus 3 for Democrats. But sadly, Andrew Gillum, still not called, 49.9 to 48.9 with 99% reporting. Yeah, that's not going to go Gillum's way, unfortunately. And I do want to see what's going on in the Senate in Florida, and it doesn't seem to be going well there either. Yeah, Rick Scott is probably going to defeat Bill Nelson as well. So not good, but part of what I predicted. Nothing shocking has happened really. And that is, I don't know if that's good or bad, but it just sort of is. And there it is. PBS calling Florida for Ron DeSantis over Andrew Gillum at the 11 p.m. hour. Thanks to Jackson for making a $5 Patreon contribution. And we are getting to the point where we effectively know we have narrowed down to just a very small variable now what it is that is going to happen. It is indeed, by every account, going to be Democrats taking over the House, plus 14 so far. They need plus 25, but every indication that they are going to get it. The House has been called for Democrats basically on almost all networks that we're paying attention to. In the Senate, Democrats are -2, and my prediction was they would be -1 or -2. Republicans will keep control there, and it looks like Democrats are indeed going to be about somewhere between +1 and +3, it appears, when it comes to governors. A couple of other super chats. Messier78, can you check the Iowa House and governor seats? Let's see what's going on in Iowa. Where is Iowa? Okay, so Iowa House. Yeah, how is our buddy J.D. Scholten doing in Iowa? J.D. Scholten is up. It's early. Man, I want J.D. Scholten to win. I met him in person and hung out with him in New Orleans in August at Netroots Nation. Really good guy, running against one of the worst. And right now he's up, but only 14% reporting. And you said governor in Iowa as well. Let's take a look at that. Governor in Iowa, we've got Fred Hubbell up with 19% reporting by 7 points over Kim Reynolds. That would be huge as well. Let's hope that that becomes a reality. Eric Guichard, I want to hear you stumble over my name for a laugh, but you got it right, and it turned out to be just as satisfying. Eric Guichard. Yeah, that one seems obvious to me. Thank you. Appreciate the support. Matthew Long says, hey, David, love the show. Keep up the good work. Francesca Boccaccio says, I support eloquence any day. What's with the $.99? Like, what's the advantage to sending a $1.99 super chat over $2? I just don't know why we see so many of those. And Polly Fufu says, thank you for being here tonight, David. Take My Call, David, has pledged $5 a month on Patreon, and I am going to call it. I am unable to take more calls because I am wrapping it up. We do have a brand new show to do tomorrow. Thanks to everybody who has joined me. Some big wins and some unfortunate losses for Democrats. Thank you. It has been like almost 4 hours of this nonsense, but we did a lot of great stuff tonight, and we will have full results tomorrow and analysis and all of that stuff. Thanks to everybody who joined me.